It's much more natural. Who needs all the fancy, right?
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. We're going to begin in just a minute.
3 kids attending reading back. All went to college so far.
This is what I need upstairs. I think yes. Okay, we're a few minutes delayed. We just came from a meeting upstairs, and we're before the regular part of the meeting. We're going to have non-agenda public testimony with the majority of the board members present. So when I call your name, please come forward. We have several people who want to speak on non-agenda items, so I'm going to ask you each to limit your talk to 2 minutes. What this means is there will be a green light there on the podium for the first minute, and then when the yellow light comes on, you have 1 minute to finish up, and then at that point you can finish your sentence, and we can move on to someone else. Again, these are items, they're not on the agenda, so anyone in the public is free to get up and identify themselves and let us know what they want to speak about, and we normally will not be making a comment on it. It's just open public comment. So I'll call several people, and you can come up to the front and then speak in any order. Citizen, Michael Goldwater, Ilka Weston, Nicole Johnson, and Kimberly Samaniego.
Should I start?
Yes.
At Lincoln, every day, there are children walking into that school with the greatest minds that this earth has, the greatest minds that can learn anything. And at Lincoln, for the first time, we had 5 parents in the elections for the school site council, and we have a chair that is a Spanish-speaking Latino mother as the chair of SSC. How exciting is that? And then the ELAC meeting, we had such a great turnout. We had so many parents, and we have enough people to run the elections. That's so fantastic. And that's happening under our new principal that replaced the lousy principals that the district got rid of, and things are starting to change. We have community visit days, which are successful, and parents love them. And we were just celebrating some of the goals of this year, and look at these teachers. These are teachers at Lincoln that want to teach, and they teach every day. The teacher Mara Nosi, 32% increase. Suvaranoth, 30%. Samaniego, 26%. Thurston, 25%. Deere, 33%. And then we have people like Elizabeth Gakakis, who doesn't like our superintendent's idea of having classroom observations to increase student achievement, to make better lesson plans, to give our children quality teaching every day. She sat at that school site council and said, I don't want anybody observing my class. When I hear that from a teacher, what is wrong there? And that's why there are problems at Lincoln. There are teachers there that don't want to teach. Fire them. If they don't want to work for their money, fire them. That's a good enough reason when they say, we're going to be insubordinate to the superintendent. We don't care what her ideas are. We're going to do it our way, and our union's going to back us up.
Hello, Board of Education. I want to thank you for your time today. My name is Ilka Weston. I am Nicholas Weston's mom, and I'm very fortunate to have such a wonderful child. I think everybody always comes when they have something negative to say. So even though I'm here as an Albert Einstein Academy parent wanting to recognize an amazing principal who is leaving as of today, Jeanette Vaughn, I would like to start off by first saying, Assistant Vice President, Superintendent Kevin Beiser, you have been an inspiration. You have been in our community. You have been going to our schools. You have been at every parade. You are there for the children. The children deserve to vote, and I know they'd vote for you. Superintendent Cindy Martin, I applaud you. You came in, you took the bull by the horns, and you decided to go through every single one of those teachers and those principals, and you promoted 40 people into a position who cares. And seeing the dream team, which I call Kevin Beiser and Cindy Martin, visiting schools, I want to thank you for that. I'm very lucky that my son is not only at a German immersion school and a public school and a charter school and an IB school, and a very active child deserves to be in that kind of education. I want to invite the board to take the time to recognize Jeanette Vaughn for all of her hard work. This was a principal who showed what we want to see. She knew every child's name. They hugged her. She was in the classrooms. She cared about what the parents had to say. She is going on a journey to another unified position in Washington where she will be helping schools turn into immersion, charter, and something greater. But it doesn't mean we're not going to miss her. So I do invite you, board, to please email her and thank her for all of her hard work. And I think Nicholas had something to say to Kevin Beiser, Vice President Kevin Beiser. Go ahead.
There's a microphone right there you can use.
Go ahead.
Nicholas.
Yes.
Go ahead.
See you at the food parade. Very nice costume.
Thank you for your time, and I just want to let you know you're all doing a wonderful job, and this parent appreciates it.
Thank you very much to both of you.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kimberly Samaniego, and I'm a teacher and the department chair at Lincoln High School. This is my second year teaching at Lincoln. I transferred from Mira Mesa. This is my 12th year teaching in the district and my 19th year of teaching mathematics. I'm here to provide a positive voice in support of the work at the administration team at Lincoln and their current efforts of reform and change. Some of these changes have included a focus on student placement, where students are placed in classes, math classes particularly, based on readiness, which promotes their student success. Relocation of teachers to common buildings where proximity and content-alike peers support collaboration, and common prep periods to promote regular meetings in professional learning communities. As a department, we made tremendous gains last year in our accountability and monitoring. Our goal was to reach 25% proficient on the CST, which aligns to the district performance at 25% and the state's at 29%. In 1 year, we moved from 5.1% proficient, we were 24th out of 24th in the district, to 15.7%, which is 13th. Now we're in the middle. Yes. 4 teachers in my department made our goals of 25%. 3 of us were teachers that were new to Lincoln. This progress proves that reform efforts are working and that the positive changes are occurring on campus for students academically. It is my belief that the testimony presented last week against the current administration is a smokescreen for other issues on campus, such as greater accountability and the request to change practice to meet A through G and Common Core expectations. Some teachers on campus, like myself, feel intimidated and frustrated by the current strong presence of teacher discontent. It is unproductive to the learning environment, and it confuses our students. Sorry, I'm really emotional about this. We are dedicated staff, and we would like to get focused to what is important, teaching our kids. Thank you for allowing me to present that voice.
Thank you. Okay, the next names are Jill McManigal. Excuse me, we have one more speaker. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, President Evans, Dr. Evans, I was supposed to speak last week, so I would like to have my full 3 minutes this week, and I have proof of that through the documentation of the computer that Ms. Ward, I'll give her in a moment.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, we have to be consistent in 2 minutes for each person. If you want to speak at the end of the meeting, you can also speak.
I prefer not to lose sleep. Okay. This is for Superintendent. This is for Superintendent Martin. Superintendent Martin, you came to a meeting May 29th of the BSS and the POSs, Building Service Supervisors and Plant Operations Supervisors. You spoke for a little over a half hour. You were very adamant about how the BSSs and POSs navigate the system for the schools, because we know the school system and the culture of the San Diego Unified. I came up with a concept concept of reciprocity, where I pointed out about 5 people in the audience that not only earned their BAs and BSs, also had a master's degree. 100 yards from here, there's a gentleman who has a BS in mechanical engineering, and he would like to teach, but he doesn't want to take a $10,000 to $15,000 pay cut to teach because he elevated himself to be a BSS while going to school. There is our most senior bus driver has a PhD in English literature. As a superintendent, is she more valuable driving a bus, even though a bus is important to get children to and from the school, or would her knowledge as a doctorate in English be more valuable in the classroom? Why isn't the San Diego Unified, and have you discussed with the Board of Education reciprocity for years of service with the district to comparatively to pay level? Most people don't want to take the $10,000 to $15,000 pay cut to use their college degrees. Most people have a mortgage. Have you addressed the Board of Education on this subject? That's a question I pose to you.
Okay.
Answer?
Thank you very much. We don't have.
I'm waiting for an answer.
Okay, I'm sorry. We have public comment, and we'll move on to the next person.
I sent an email July 1st to you. I don't know if you got it, but you all have it in the documentation I gave. My concern,
Okay.
Have you addressed the issue?
Okay, your time is up. Thank you. Jill McManigal and Hannah Kraft, Joanne Fields, Stephen Greenwald, and Kimberly Warren. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jill McManigal. I'm the co-founder and executive director of Kids for Peace. I come with good news. I'm here to invite all San Diego schools to participate in our Great Kindness Challenge. Last year we had about 100 San Diego schools who participated, and I'm really delighted to inform all schools this year so that they can get an early jump on their planning and be part of this beautiful initiative. The Great Kindness Challenge is 1 week where students dedicate the entire week to creating a culture of kindness on their campus. It's as simple as the students receive a checklist with 50 kind deeds, and they spend the entire week doing as much kindness for each other, for their staff, for the administration, for the school environment. And we found that it absolutely uplifts the environment on school campuses. For the schools, it is free, which we always like to hear in schools. So there's no cost. It is very simple to implement. I was a school teacher myself, and I realized to have impactful events that we have to keep them really simple. And it has a huge impact that's been proven to really elevate the school campus. All schools need to do is go to our website, which is greatkindnesschallenge.org, and register. And then we provide the checklist and a toolkit that's full of lots of great ideas to complement and supplement the week. And then we even have a big celebration at the end at the New Children's Museum. And every school will be invited to bring an administration and 2 students, and we'll get to highlight the big work that our students are doing to create a world of kindness, compassion, unity, and respect. So I hope that all San Diego schools will participate together. I know that we can make this world a beautiful place for everybody. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Hannah Kraft, and I'm a sophomore at Carlsbad High School. I've come today to also invite all San Diego students to participate in the Great Kindness Challenge. I've taken the challenge for the past 2 years, and I see that it truly makes a difference. It helps to create a school environment that is respectful, compassionate, unified, and kind. I hope you join me from January 27th through the 31st as we show the world that kindness truly does matter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Board. My name's Steve Greenwald. I'd like to, first of all, compliment the 5 outstanding teachers that got their awards this past week, and they were just fantastic. So there's 5 teachers. We should actually present them to the City Council at some point. I'd like to talk about 2 points. I'm a retired orthopedist. The first thing I'd like to talk about, which I spoke about here a year and a half ago, is contact football in high school. The NFL is an entertainment. It's not a sport. They just paid $765 million to settle cases with 2,500 NFL players. The point is very basic. The helmets. From 12 years ago when I studied it, and also 2 years ago at USC, they found out the helmets are absolutely worthless. Chronic traumatic encephalopathy occurs every time there's a game in high school. Quadriplegia, permanent paralysis of all four extremities, and loss of bladder and bowel control occurs in about 2 in 100,000 player games. So point is, high school football should be totally banned. In the Vista Community School District, they just settled a case of quadriplegia for $4.5 million. My point is, contact football should not exist in high school or in college, and that's the medical evidence that I'm talking about. It's not my opinion. It's that of the medical community, and even the neurologist from USC said that she would not have her own child play contact football in high school. The second problem I'd like to talk about today is, by the way, contact soccer for girls also causes head injuries and ACL injuries from Pepperdine University. That's where the studies were done. That probably will have to go as well. The third point I'd like to say is that we have a major challenge in breaking the cycle of poverty and incarceration and poor education. And that's a major challenge for the San Diego Unified School District, how to break that cycle. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Superintendent Martin, school board members. My name is Joanne Fields, and some may know, many do not know, October is Filipino Heritage Month. And I want to thank Board Member Marnie Foster and several principals in District D who attended our 9th annual Filipino Festival this past weekend. I want to invite all of you to Bell Middle School on Friday, October 25th to continue the celebration. It's more than just one day, it's a whole month. And I'm pleased to announce that we have Johnny Itliong, who is the descendant of Larry Itliong, who is one of our pioneers in the United Farm Workers Movement. Many do not know the Filipino role in the movement, that we actually started the grape strike. And his son will be at Bell Middle School again Friday, October 25th, 6 p.m. We'd like all of you to join us and invite anyone that you would like to see and experience the history with us. It's free and open to the public. We're also trying to work on visiting Memorial Middle School and to not only celebrate Filipino history, but to share the history at other schools. So if there's a liking at any other school, please let me know so that we can make that arrangement while he is here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Kimberly Warren. I spoke to you last week. 1 minute was not enough, so I came back. I'm an excess teacher, and I'm being accessed again. I was accessed August 28th, and less than a month later, I was told I'm being sent somewhere else, and I really don't understand why. I know that there's a problem with accessing due to the increased class size, and I understand that. But I don't understand why it was a short-term decision. I was placed at the school because they were program improvement year 3. Now I'm being told I need to leave after setting up that classroom, after cleaning that classroom, after prepping that classroom and getting to know those students. I'm being cut because it's based on enrollment. Last week we also found out our school is now year 4 program improvement. I don't think they're moving in the right direction, and pulling teachers that you assigned for that support and being pulled is going to help them either. Last week, one of the comments I made was that we need to be most strategic about placing these excess teachers where they're most needed, with the kids that need them most. And I want to thank you, because apparently, according to SDA and Human Resources, you are looking at target reductions of class size based on need. So again, I'm asking you, just like we ask our students, do the math. Make sure you have enough positions for every teacher you have that's already accessed before you access more of us, because more of us are being cut. Then make sure it's strategic. Make sure it's really a wise decision where you're sending people and why. And then also make sure that It's real problem solving, because I know we're not pink slipping teachers this year, and for that I thank you. But this nut and shell hiding of teachers, of excess teachers back and forth, is not helpful for my health, for my students, and that's really where my priority lies, is with them. They have enough chaos in their lives without having to get to know a classroom, teacher, an environment, her rules, and then get sent back out to someone else to have to start all over. It's ruining the first grade team. It's bad for the community, it's bad for the staff, and it's bad for the site. Please make a wise choice and some smart decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our non-agenda public testimony. Thank you very much for everyone who participated in a very civil discussion of different issues that we are facing. At this time, the Navy JROTC Color Guard from Patrick Henry High School, I believe, is here. Patrick Henry, are you in the house? Patrick Henry, JROTC. Okay, they're off at another event, I'm sure. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready to begin? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good afternoon. Thank you, everyone, for being here for our meeting to discuss issues of public education here at the Sandy Unified School District, with all board members present and the superintendent and Ms. Ward, the board action officer, and we have two others joining us on the dais. And I would like each of you to introduce yourselves. First of all, Michaela or Michaela? Michaela Valk from SCPA.
Hello, my name is Michaela Valk, and I am the ASB president at the San Diego School of Creative and Performing Arts, and also the governance co-chair. I also serve as the executive president for the President ASB Council here for the San Diego Unified School District. Our theme for ASB this year at my campus is unity. We want to strengthen the relationship for each graduating class, the middle school and high school students, the different art majors, as well as the teachers, students, and administration. As executive president, I also hope to incorporate the theme of unity within all the ASB presidents by creating ASB-wide community involvement and district events such as our district-wide anti-bullying week. Because SCPA is a college preparatory school of the arts, October will be College and Conservatory Month. A myriad of colleges with art majors will be present at our different workshops, such as Cal Arts, Cornish, University of Pennsylvania, USC, and Juilliard. And so if you would like to attend any of these events, please take a look at our website. Thank you.
Okay, so Michaela is a double president, the president of ASB at School of Creative and Performing Arts, as well as the ASB Council. So I'll share this gavel with you. If anyone's out of order, please bang it very quickly. You'll have a lot of opportunity. Okay. And now we have Kira Johnson from Claremont High School.
Great. Hi, I'm Kira Johnson. I'm the ASB president at Claremont High School, and I am the executive vice president of our President's Council here for the school board. Some things we had going on at our school, our anti-bully week that we just participated in just last week. And for the past 2 weeks on my campus, we've had some college workshops, and every couple weeks we have several of the UC schools or some of the state schools come out and tell our students what's going on to bring up and boost the idea that everyone needs to apply for college coming up.
Okay, thank you very much, and welcome here. And Kira is the vice president of the ASB Council. So we have the president and the vice president here today. So I would encourage you to speak up as we talk about matters that are affecting your schools. If it's about high school and if it's about elementary school. Kira, did you go to elementary school here? What schools did you go to?
I went to Holmes Elementary and Innovation Middle School.
Okay, very good. And Michaela, what schools did you go to?
I went to Penn Elementary.
Okay. And then you went to SCPA from there. Okay, very good. So I'm sure you have a lot of ideas that you can share with us. Okay, at this point, excuse me? Go ahead.
You don't have to worry about Michaela speaking up because she went live on the morning news shows with me last month. I think we were on 2 stations, right? And she was a natural being able to speak to the public about public education. So I welcome you here, and I expect your voice to be a strong participant in the work that we do to serve all of the students. So you're a natural, and thanks for being here, and welcome tonight, Kira.
I knew I had seen her somewhere on TV or on the movies.
You can get her autograph.
There we go. Okay, we're going to start off with our student presentation from Mission Bay High School in Scott Barnett's district. Fred Hilgers is the principal. Go ahead.
And I'm not Fred Hilgers. My name is James McKillian, Vice Principal, Mission Bay High School. But thank you very much for allowing us this opportunity to present tonight an after-school program that we're really excited about, kind of taking an idea that we've been utilizing over the last couple of years and trying to build upon that and make it a better program. This is Ron Lancia, our English department chair, and also the ACES after-school program coordinator, and then 2 of just wonderful students, John Fields and Damneet Carr. Just to kind of briefly set the stage, Mission Bay High School is an international baccalaureate school. We serve a very diverse population of kids, not only in the Pacific Beach neighborhood, but also about 70% of our kids come from all over the district. So we truly have some unique opportunities to serve kids in a variety of ways, and we're really trying to support kids in their educational, academic, social, and emotional areas of need. And so this after-school program is trying to meet those needs. John Fields is here tonight because he, within about a 3-day time period with a group of students through a class project, had an opportunity to put together a really cool video that's intent and purpose is to attract kids to come to the after-school center to be engaged and get support where they need. So John's going to share with you just short how that kind of all came to be, and then we're going to show you the video, and then Mr. Lancia and Damneet are going to talk a little bit about the specifics of the program.
Hi. I'm John, and I did the ACES video for Mr. Lancia and Mr. McKillian right over here. Well, Mr. Lancia, basically, he had a call to action, basically, to create this video, and it was basically the entire film program, all the students, everything like that. It was kind of like a call to action, and we really actually got motivated, and we actually had fun with it. And Lancia pitched in as well, and so we really all had fun with it. And I hope you guys all enjoy it, really.
Don't you know, we're talking about a revolution. It sounds like a whisper. Don't you know, we're talking about a revolution. It sounds like a whisper.
The program, in its current configuration, is designed to include all students and not just students that are here for help with English and writing. We're serving science, math, Spanish speakers, IB, special populations. It's including every student across the curriculum.
Don't you know, talking about a revolution sounds.
You can't really find this help in any other club or program after school. This actually has a bunch of teachers all in one place from different subjects.
Will keep me coming coming back as Miss Lancia, I mean, the program is fun, and I get done with my work. Like, I don't want to do it at home. I'd rather stay here and get help and get it done.
I come here to keep me ahead of my classes so I won't stay behind, just stay ahead.
Talking about a revolution, while they're standing in the welfare line. Talking about a revolution.
Thank you for watching. Very briefly, I just wanted to talk about why ACES, and along with the acronym After School Center for Excellence and Support, the suits of the cards represent our 4 visions, our 4 commitments to the community of Mission Bay High School. The heart is our approach to the whole child, to the social, emotional aspect of a child. Mentoring is going to take place there, not just tutoring. As far as the club is the club or community effect. We want these kids to have a consistent place to go. They feel like an after-school club where once they're there and having fun, we can engage them and start to figure out what they need help with academically. The diamond is a 4-sided approach that we have. We have a math and science provider, we have an English and history provider, then we have a special populations provider that would be like IB, AP, Spanish speakers, and then finally activities. And again, we want to bring in some physical activities for these kids to keep coming back. Finally, the spade. This is the process of being able to dig deeper with that special expert in a content area. So once they get their instruction in class, they can dig a little deeper with a one-on-one experience with the teacher. Really quickly, I wanted to say when this started as a writing center 3 years ago, we averaged about 10 students a day. And now that we've taken it to this holistic approach, we had 50 students today just coming in for the after-school program, and we've only been running for about 2.5 weeks. I really want to thank everybody for their time. I want to introduce my former student, Dominique, and I couldn't be prouder of these 2 individuals for being here today. Thank you very much for your time.
Hi, my name's Dominique, and I would just like to thank for hearing me out. But I'm an IB student, which means I'm taking IB International Baccalaureate, and ACES has really helped me provide support for not only me, who's taking rigorous courses, but my friends who don't want to take IB, but they're just taking regular classes. And it provides support not for only academics, but emotional support. And it really helps with not just, the usual strong learners, but someone who's struggling in basic maths. And teachers are told that it's okay, and we're told, people who are taking regular classes, they get told that it's okay to take basic math because it's only going to help you in achieving higher education. And so it's not just, we're not striving for academic excellence, but it's emotional support that a lot of kids that come to Mission Bay don't get at home, or don't get because they have responsibility of taking care of their siblings, or working extra jobs because you are a senior and you have to work with that. So I think it's a great program, and I'm really thankful that I have it at my school. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much for that presentation. And I'm also glad to hear that you can have fun while you are learning. So now we will have fun with our board meeting. Fun. Let's start off with, let me see here, our superintendent's information reports. Which
administrative assignment.
It's left over from last week. Okay, I didn't think you had any more. Okay, administrative assignments, and then your report, which probably will have pictures.
Yes. These are management appointments for Vice Principal at Innovation Middle School, Courtney Brown, Vice Principal at San Diego High School, Paul Nunez, and Manager at Employee Benefits, Robert Connolly.
Go ahead.
Go to my superintendent's report.
Uh-huh.
Okay. We're going to load them up. What I'll be featuring are some of the school visits that we've done, continuing on implementing quality school in every neighborhood and looking at our 12 indicators. It's really important that I spend time with our chief of staff and our area superintendents visiting schools, and area superintendents, 6 of them have signed up for the school visits to make sure that we see the range, elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, and looking through the lens of the indicators. And the first school that and then I'm weaving in there some of the other things that happen, because a quality school in every neighborhood, of course, we begin with what happens in the classroom and supporting teaching and learning. But that the school district is in a larger system, in the larger community, and what is the community of education around San Diego. So I always focus my information report on the specific context of the classroom and the school visits, and on the broader community that we serve. So the first one, am I doing my own slides this time? Where do I point? Over there? Okay, this is going to be new. There it is. Okay, so this is Marston Middle School visit, and one of the classrooms that we went in, unfortunately I can't remember the teacher's name, but the room environment was inviting for a middle school with, along the walls of the classroom, inspirational messages. And then as you walk through the halls of Marston Middle School, they named their hallways inspirational sayings about going to college. So they have Graduate Highway, and there was one that was really creative, and I can't remember something about, but every street, every hallway is named something that's about college readiness. And then, of course, I was also inspired by meeting this gentleman, and I also don't remember his name, but he's the BSS at the school, and the pride that he takes in his campus. He wanted to make a point to come and say hi to me, welcome me to the school, and I was already commenting on the beauty of the campus, and a safe and well-maintained environment is part of our quality school indicator. So not only did I see inside our classrooms, but around the entire campus, a welcoming environment. So that was the first visit since the last time we met. And then we have our famous Michaela. There she is. I told you she was. This was when we were on KUSI, and started out her first round as being, right, I think you were before you were elected the president of presidents, and you just went live on TV with an interview, and this guy fired questions at us. So it was nice to see her be able to hold her own. This is when we had the grand opening of our college career technical education multimedia facility at Mira Mesa High School, and we'll go to that studio, which is very similar to the KUSI studio. You wouldn't know. Are you at KUSI there, or are you at one of our own high school studios? That the studio that we just opened through this program at Mira Mesa High School is the same or better than what we just saw the morning before at at KUSI. And this is the team, this is the ribbon cutting ceremony, and in fact there was press coverage that day, and the news reporters that were there are saying you have the same technology we have in our own studios, that it's really state-of-the-art, cutting edge. Our students are to be college and career ready. To imagine you're a broadcaster while you're still in college, and those are the types of opportunities we're providing, and that's brand new, grand opening that day at Mira Mesa High School. And this is, the next visit was to an elementary school in Point Loma, Silvergate Elementary School, and just thought the entrance was beautiful. I captured that as I was walking in. I pay attention to the surface structures of our school, how they look, how they feel, and then the deeper structures in the classroom and the learning and the voice that you see. So that was the entrance to Silvergate. And then beautiful artwork. This was a tile wall. This was a project that the principal did over the summer to build school spirit. The principal talked about, I think their motto is learning is great at Silvergate, but if I have that wrong, she'll correct me, but they had some slogan, and the idea, or school is great at Silvergate, there it's on the shirts. And they had the students, when they were on their summer vacations, take pictures of themselves wherever they were to spread Silvergate and public education and the message of we love our school. The kids brought back pictures after their summer vacation, and they're making a wall in their library about all the different places that they visited during their summer travels, and pictures of themselves wearing their school spirit shirt. So that was one they submitted. And this is a group of students outside. It looks like that was maybe a kindergarten class under a tree doing outdoor science learning experience. And then they also have a garden at their school. Obviously, they haven't planted their zucchini and their kale yet. It wasn't time, but those are some things they're getting ready to plant. This is our chief of staff, Stacy Monreal, along with the principal in one of the classrooms. And this was a photo book that the school had put together. I think it was a PTA project that has student voice, and a photography project that they did. Now, to Washington, D.C., the Broad Prize announcement. I don't know that you, well, I don't know if you would ever get that picture. There's two former superintendents and a current superintendent in one picture with Chris Yanov, who's the director or president of Reality Changers, one of our quality programs that serves our kids. And when we left the Broad Prize announcement, we went outside and we're on our way over to Feinstein and Boxer's office to do some advocacy for public education. So we had to stop and take this picture. I think I called that I felt like I had 3 Secret Service bodyguards escorting me through.
This was before the government shut down. It was a week before.
You're not taking credit for that. Or blank, no. What did we do when we were there? We were advocating for public education. So that was on our way over. I got back, and then this is the grand opening, ribbon cutting for Barnard Asian Pacific Language Academy, the dedication ceremony with Principal Eddie Park and our interim mayor, Todd Gloria. And there's the ribbon cutting ceremony for that event. And then another community event. This is from the stage when we had the grand opening of the downtown library, where we have one of our charter schools, the E3 Charter, is in that building, and this was the broader opening of the library. And my favorite part of the whole day, I couldn't get a great picture of it, but outside the library on the grand opening day, to see blocks and blocks of people lined up to come and see their new library. I think this concept of lining up for literacy, that there was 2 city blocks of people for a festival to celebrate literacy, that was very inspiring to me. And to see the kids with the book characters, and the idea that you can wait in line for a library card sends a really great message that people are coming out for books, and they're coming out to come and see their new library, and it's our library. And I was happy to be able to get out and be a part of that grand opening ceremony. And the next visit was Lincoln High School. I have pictures actually outside. There's our chief of staff walking with the principal as we're on our way down to our classrooms. And the campus there, you can see what the campus looks like as we're walking through with the students. We had a chance to interact and have conversations with the kids, where we learn the most from our students when we're on campuses. Now, the next day we were at Clark Middle School, and we specifically in this classroom were looking at the Welcome Center, where for our brand new students that are coming to us in middle school, this is in the Welcome Center, and they have maps of where all the students are from, and there's some student learning that's collaborative using language. Our core belief is that you learn language by using language, and this is an example at Monroe Clark Middle School. Then went with Dr. Evans to Claremont for our homecoming. And once a chieftain, always a chieftain at Claremont High School. It was the Pride in the Tribe event, and they had me doing. Luckily, we don't have a picture of this. I'm sure somebody will find it. But we had to do with Dr. Evans the electric slide.
I don't know what it was.
Or whatever they call it. They had
just copying everybody else.
We were a new principal at the school, and Team Spirit outside the homecoming football game. And I have to say that I don't know if there's a competition, but there is the most beautiful view from the field. This is from Claremont High School. The sunset that evening was absolutely gorgeous. I know you can't see the football field, but that was the sunset the night of the Claremont football homecoming game, and I just think that's gorgeous. Then Saturday night we had our salute to teachers, the County Teacher of the Year ceremony, and we featured right on stage. Some of you may have seen it live on television. I saw it live in person. This is our group of students from Marshall Middle School and Scripps Ranch, and I can't pronounce the name. I think it's Bravara. Did I say it right, Linda? Bravara, and completely inspirational. This should be playing over and over again on Channel 4. They're singing for the event that night, and the student did a fabulous job. And here, after the event, we have Laura Dickens, Laura Dickens from Henry High School. She was honored that night as Environmental Educator of the Year. And then Patrick Trotter from Bethune K-8 was honored as Science and Technology Educator of the Year. And in this picture, you also see Ken Hughes from Lewis Middle School, District Middle School Teacher of the Year, and Angela Wold from Euclid Elementary School, District Elementary Teacher of the Year. And this is from last year, but the event celebrating them was that night. And here are the rest of the Teachers of the Year from last year. Okay. that fast enough?
Okay, very good.
Trying to give you a time limit.
No buzzer went off, so
Okay.
I have to hit the gavel.
Thank you.
Okay,
It's a pleasure to be out in the community and seeing all the things that are happening for our students.
That's great. Thank you very much. We all have to paint pictures of what we did while Cindy has a real good graphic representation. So let's start off with Mr. Beiser today for one.
Get the clicker.
Oh, more pictures.
I dramatically consolidated the pictures that I have from my school visits. One of the advantages of being a teacher in the Sweetwater School District is the last 2 weeks I was on vacation. So with the area superintendents, I went around and visited all the schools in Subdistrict B. So here are a few pictures. So here we go. So just... Okay, this is Gil Gutierrez and I visited all the schools in Tierra Santa and Scripps Ranch. Lots of really exciting hands-on learning in the classrooms. A lot of very involved integrated art. Students working on different group projects. This is the robotics team at Scripps Ranch High School. This is their robot they're incredibly proud of, and we all are proud of them as well. This is a B-Bot. It is a robot for kindergartners and elementary school students to start helping them understand different problem-solving strategies, and it's kind of, like the beginning phases of robot intelligence. This was a really fascinating way to integrate QR codes into the classroom so that the kids with the iPads would just scan the QR code, and then that would take them to the source of information where they then would search for information to then fill out or complete their assignments. Some more examples of amazing art in our schools. Children hard at work. More art. Attendance matters. Great posters in a lot of our schools trying to help focus students and parents on important things that help support student learning. Different grade level supports and things like that in terms of GATE reading levels. And that's it.
That was a quick tour for 40
quick.
schools. That's
well,
pretty
it's
impressive.
more than 40 schools because I also visited all the schools in Serra Mesa, all the schools in University Heights, Normal Heights, College area, all the schools in Del Cerro and Ally Garden, all the schools in San Carlos.
Okay.
So it was a great opportunity to go with the area superintendents and observe some amazing instruction and see what a great job our teachers and kids and support staff are doing. So thank you. It was a great opportunity.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Beiser. It's great to go out and see what's going on in the schools. And Mr. Barrera.
Sure. Just I wanted to also back up Superintendent Martin. I think all of us were at the opening of the downtown library, the Central Library. And again, for folks who haven't had a chance to visit yet, I would absolutely recommend getting over there. And it's a great example of where school district, city government, the community can work together to create something that we can be proud of and that's going to last a lot longer than any of us, serving here on this board. So it was great to see. And I also wanted to congratulate all of the organizers for the Immigration March. Kevin Beiser and I joined folks there at Balboa Park on Saturday, who marched down to the county administration building. This board has taken a very strong stance in favor of comprehensive immigration reform, and we saw a community speaking up and speaking strongly about the need to take people out of the shadows and do right by our entire community. So it was great to be there.
I think you've mentioned most everything. One thing that I would like to share is that the 9th annual Philam Fest happened this past weekend, and during that festival, they celebrated principals in District E that celebrate and embrace diversity for our students. And so I would really like to acknowledge the great work and the long history 9th annual Philam Fest, and of particular mention are some of the principals, Michael Dotson, Principal Singleton, and Canny, and I mean, if I go on, I'm going to miss someone, but there were about 9 different principals, and it was really something to behold. And the students, I don't think that they could have cheered louder. The support was probably a precedent. We probably had over 60 students perform and cheer just from one school showed out. And so there's a lot of great things going on in District E, not only about celebrating diversity, but really embracing language. And I don't know if you know this, but just as an example, the Filipino language program probably is one of the largest programs that connects parents, the community, and the school site in terms of their level of engagement. And so that is something that we need to spread across San Diego Unified. But I just needed to mention my experience this past weekend, so thank you for that.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Mr. Barnett was going to pass. I just want to say the same thing in terms of the enthusiasm we see going out to the schools and seeing all the great things that are going on. As Superintendent Martin mentioned, the great homecoming at Claremont High School, the dedication of this fantastic broadcast journalism facility at Mira Mesa High School. There's a lot of things that people are finding out about what's going on in public education here in San Diego. And then all of the parents and teachers meeting together in the cluster meetings in Claremont and in UC and Mira Mesa and everywhere. Last Saturday there was an Oktoberfest to raise money for a foundation to raise money for the schools in UC. And of course, Superintendent Martin was also there. I think one thing you'll find in common is Mr. Barrera, Mr. Beiser, different people are at different places, and the common theme is generally that Superintendent Martin is also there. I don't know if she has a clone or something in terms of getting to all these different places. And so I don't have any pictures to show, but supposedly there was going to be something on the screen that was just going to pop up while I was speaking magically. And if I just wave my hands, it will show up there. Okay. What are you going to be doing 2 days before Halloween? On October 29th, we're going to have a big district-wide event, which is Dream Big, Vision 2020 for quality schools in every neighborhood. Our annual State of the District address, but this is going to be a really exciting event because we're going to be talking about what we're doing this year and in the coming years in terms of bringing quality schools to every single neighborhood in San Diego. And one of the things we're going to feature are the products of public education. We have some great products of San Diego Unified Public Education, ranging from the current interim mayor to scientists on the Mars rover to budget analysts at the county to people working in the metropolitan transit system and everything else, all these great people who have come out of San Diego Unified. So we're going to see a little bit about what San Diego Unified has produced and who are the current kids who are coming up, and we're going to have the principals are going to be coming with delegations from their schools, and hopefully that will include parents, teachers, students, and community members, because we do have a lot of clusters, a lot of communities, a lot of individual schools, but this really is a unified district, and we really want to see how we're all pulling together. We've gone through some of the hardest years economically in the last few years, and I think you can see just from the very first board meeting this year that there's really a focus now on academics, on improving student achievement. We've been making incremental gains, and our goal now is to really accelerate those gains and really pull together. Superintendent Martin's slogan at Central was work hard, be kind, dream big, no excuses, and I'm not sure if that was in the right order. That was in the right order. Okay. But this, we really do, we don't want to just say this is what we're doing. We really want to present a vision and a dream of how we want our schools to be as we keep progressing towards the year 2020, and it's really going to be exciting. So that will be on Thursday, October 29th at 4:30 at Kearney High School, and we will have a reception ahead of time, and then at 5:30 will be the program, and we really expect everybody to be there, and it's going to be an exciting time. So keep that date before 2 days before Halloween. Okay. Now, at this point, can we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Okay, second, please vote. Okay. I notice we've had some TV cameras come in. Michaela keeps being followed around everywhere she goes. Okay. And I just want to ask Michaela, in terms of the Council of ASB Presidents, as that group, what are you working on at this point?
On September 23rd through the 27th was our district-wide anti-bullying week, in which we hope to continue for the rest of forever, just to keep having anti-bullying, because it really is important. It spreads awareness of the different kind of bullying that is going on today: verbal bullying, cyberbullying, LGBTQ bullying, and that's what we just finished off of as a council.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot. I mean, we had a lot of adults going and visiting the schools and observing different things. I'm just curious from each of you if there's something happening at your school or going on, or something that on the surface people wouldn't notice that's great and exciting at your school. Can you identify anything like that?
Well, at my school, we had a student who had leukemia throughout her years in high school, and so we had some students start up a legacy club starting last year to raise money for cancer awareness and fighting for the cure. So at our school, we have that club. They're out at most of our football games, as well as just around, and they have a goal of $10,000, I believe, by the end of the school year to raise for the cure for Courtney. So that's one of our really cool clubs that you wouldn't know directly on the surface.
Right, great. And thanks for sharing that.
And when I was on KUSI and Channel 6 with Ms. Martin, we talked about the Common Core standards. And at first I didn't really know what it was, but I learned more. In the future, we will no longer have the bubble-in test, and it'll later become the computer-based tests. And at my school specifically, thank you, we have begun to implement the Common Core state standards, which include analyzing work, critical thinking, collaborating, and applying what we're learning both in the arts and academics to the real world. For example, one of our math classes took a walk around the campus and focused on how to redesign different parts of the campus, and our technical theater students also build the sets for our productions.
Great. Okay. One of the things maybe the ASB Council presidents could do is help us get the word out about what Common Core is and explain to people exactly what's happening. I think you'd be great ambassadors to do that. Okay, on item E2, we have the review of the local educational agency plan. This is a requirement to do at this point in time. It's sometimes we have to approve some things that are retroactive in terms of the different timelines we face, but we're at a certain point right now where we need to make a report on this. Okay. Ron Rohde will be showing us pictures of his summer vacation while he talks about
Good evening, everyone. As President Evans mentioned, this is an annual requirement that the district review its educational or local educational agency plan. And typically that is an exercise that happens that begins in the fall and we conclude in the spring. However, we knew this year that we were going to have to present to you by September 30th the results, because we're a Year 3 district, that we also have to submit to the California Department of Education. So the decision was made last spring to combine these two together for the presentation tonight. So this all started with the enactment of NCLB, which was, of course, the reauthorization of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. And our plan is very unique across the state in that it's aligned with our Vision 2020 and the 12 quality indicators for our neighborhood schools. And one thing that we want to emphasize is that probably a lot of people are aware that we got some one-time money, $9.7 million, when we became a Year 3 district in program improvement. But the LEA plan really spans across all of the district funding, so it includes both federal funding, state funding, in addition to those one-time monies. And so just the document that we're looking at tonight, again, is the one that was reviewed concluding in the spring of last year. So it still has references to some former staff members who are no longer here. Also, some strategies have changed in the interim, but we will be doing a full update as we move forward this year. So what did we do last year? We began meeting to look at each of the 12 indicators and group together. We held several meetings. We invited community participation. And once we had a draft that was done, we also met with the leaders of the parent advisory groups to gather their input. And some of the input that they gave us we have already acted upon and made changes as we move forward. So we, again, need to go through an annual review this year. In conjunction with some work that we're working on with the Chief of Staff, we already know some things that we need to change in this document. For example, Superintendent Martin has already changed some of the strategy, or the actions at least, to achieve some of the strategies. One is, I can give by example, is looking at leadership development. That was in our plan already, but we now have a new Office of Leadership Development. We have some mentor principals. So it's still trying to achieve the same goal, but we have some different strategies, and those need to be updated in our LEA plan. We also are left this year with some unknowns at this point because we have this new local control accountability plan that the state is requiring. We're still waiting for the State Board of Education and the California Department of Education to give us guidance on how that plan is going to work with the LEA plan. They've been on record saying we understand we don't want to give you an additional requirement, so they need to work together. We just don't know exactly yet how that's going to happen. Regardless of what form that takes, we will continue to invite community and parent participation in the review of the goals and strategies. But we have one plan right now that's focused on Vision 2020, on the 12 indicators, so we will certainly continue to, down that road. We're not going to change course at this point. And I just want to point out that the documents that you have here, that they, again, the LEA plan, which is about a 70-page document, is organized around the 12 indicators. We did add an additional indicator at the beginning, which was called communication and implementation, and that arose from findings of a needs assessment that was conducted by West Ed for us. And so we want to make sure that we had a good communication plan and a strategy to make sure that we were able to realize our goals. This document is one that is housed in the state's California Accountability and Improvement System. So it's something that is very live. You can update it as needed, and it's a database, so it keeps track of everything for you. But the structure of it is perhaps a little bit confusing when you first look at it. So I just want to give people a quick 101 on what it's about. So we start with the goals, those 12 goals that are in there, and then underneath that are strategies. For example, how are we going to achieve improving leadership in the district? Well, now we have the Office of Leadership Development. Underneath that are action steps, and then at the lowest level are specific tasks that we're going to use to accomplish those goals. And it's been pointed out from some people in the past that there are some dates in there that look rather confusing. So we didn't really assign dates to the tasks. So when it says 1-1-0001, that's just something the system assigns. So I just want people to know they can ignore that. Those dates are not meaningful. And the other thing to remember is that some of the strategies in here we knew we could not accomplish in a single year, so they have end dates, for example, of June 2014, so the end of this school year. And so when you look at the progress indicator at the very top in front of the document, in some ways, don't want to be alarmed, even though it says it's 23%, many of the strategies in here span the 2 years, so we still have time to accomplish what we're working on there.
Before you go on, I just want to talk to the board about this particular structure. So this is a required structure, the LEA plan, but I think what's significant here in terms of your vision, our vision 2020, and the 12 indicators, the fact that we've been able to take a pretty dry structure and make it our own, that we are working, yes, we have to report this to the state, and there's timelines and accountability pieces to it, but that we're using what we believe is important for quality schools. So the 12 indicators are what's guiding this work, and to take a document that is required by the state and having to do timelines on it. There's goals, there's strategies, there's action steps, and there's tasks, and aligning it and continuing to align it and realign it allows it to be a living document. And that's always important, that you take requirements and rules that we have to do and figure out how to make them our own. And Mr. Rohde went over it quickly when he said that there's 12 indicators. The whole LEA plan is designed around the 12 indicators, but there's one more that we added, so we actually have 13 goals that we're working on. The 13th goal that was added was communication and implementation. So you can have these 12 goals, you can have these 12 indicators that we know make a quality school, and we can work on all the tasks, action steps, strategies for each of the 12 indicators, but if you don't have a way to communicate and implement, they just live there in this document. So having 13 things that we work on in our LEA plan is breathing life into the 12 indicators that help create a quality school in every neighborhood.
So with this item attached to it were essentially 4 documents. So the thick document, the 70-page actual LEA plan document. We also included an accountability progress report, and it really supplements what we looked at last month when we had the standardized testing and reporting program report, the CST report, and the CASE report, because the CD requires that we show that we have presented the information to the board members. You've had a chance to discuss and review the information. So again, it's a compliance item, but it's also part of your role in looking at our data as we move forward. And then there's a very short document here, and the CD was very emphatic with us that we had a maximum of 3 pages to submit a very brief summary to talk about the implementation we used in the past year and some of the results. So again, that doesn't do justice to everything that we've done, but we were working within some limitations there. So again, there's additional information here about the achievement with the API and the AYP information. There's some additional information about gap closure that we've seen, particularly with our English learners showing a little bit, and with some of our students in high poverty category, if you will. So that's in there, and the supplements information we looked at last month. So that's my very brief presentation.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Rohde. So we have LEA, APR, CDE, STAR, KC, API, AYP, all this alphabet soup. But what I just wanted to support what Superintendent Martin was saying is that for years we looked at these reports that had to be filled out for the state or for the federal government, and there was a lot of compliance of cut and paste and put them together. We're doing what we're doing best for our students, but we have to sort of fit into this format. And we've really turned things around, I think, last year when we said, we have this idea of what a quality school is, and we're working on these 12 indicators, so let's see if we can use that as our report and fit it into what the state wants. And I think there are a lot of ways that we've been ahead of the state and the federal government. Another example is our whole emphasis on quality schools in every neighborhood, which really means an equitable distribution of funds, and now the state has come up with a local control funding formula, which is designed to do exactly that. We've been talking about a broad and challenging curriculum that emphasizes critical thinking, and finally our whole testing system is coming around to that in terms of the curriculum and the Common Core. So we're really before we were filling out one report for the state and one report for the federal government, one report on what we're doing, and it's like doing 12 different lessons plans for the same thing, and now we're really getting aligned, and I think we're going to really be able to see a difference. And we're going to be able to measure it. And even in terms of measuring, we have staff working with state officials at CDE in terms of letting them know what are helpful and accurate ways to measure our progress. Superintendent Martin has had a couple of meetings with Secretary of Education Duncan pointing out what we're doing in San Diego, so he's very aware of what's going on here. So I think we're just at a really, really great point in terms of getting really focused on academics, and I think we can see this from the very first day of this school year. And so, you know, I think as Mr. Rohde pointed out, we have some overlap in terms of some different reports and things that need to be turned in to be properly compliant. But I think as we see new reports and information going forward, they're going to fit with exactly what we're doing, and I think that's a pretty exciting part about all this. Okay, thank you, Mr. Rohde. Okay.
Mr. Evans,
yes.
Can we have a motion on this?
Okay.
To accept the LA plan.
Okay, a motion to accept. Is there a second? There is a second. Okay, we'll make this very official instead of unofficial. Please vote. Okay, that passes 5-0. Okay, the next item is the plan for the community dialogue about the Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman situation. Superintendent Martin, this was directed by the school board a while ago after the events that happened to have a community-wide dialogue that looked at all facets of this situation, not just from one particular angle.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Evans. This goes back to on July 30th, Trustee Foster and Trustee Barrera sponsored a resolution, and it was directing me to create a plan where we would be able to discuss the Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman process, to conduct a community dialogue about Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman case. And so I've been working with staff to create the forum for that to happen. So it's important, before I have staff come up, I think Mr. Aguirre is going to come up here. But let me go back to what the original resolution is so we can put it into context, because I want to make sure that we honor the request of Trustee Foster and Trustee Barrera on what the intention was behind this and how we're creating the opportunity for the community to have the dialogue. So I'm going to ground Mr. Aguirre, our District Relations Director, I'm going to ground his presentation and what the original request was. So going back to the language, the resolution was around direction to discuss the Trayvon Martin case, and that the dialogues with the district middle and high school students would provide an opportunity for the following to occur. And the theme is to allow students to speak honestly about worldviews that people hold. And when you give students an opportunity to speak honestly about worldviews, that happens in a forum and in a context that we can provide as a school system. Another theme of your resolution was continue to speak honestly, and how do we create that forum? Well, the other theme had to do with giving students an opportunity and supporting students to develop perspectives and strategies to channel their feelings. And how do you have multiple points of view and multiple perspectives on a topic that, do you know enough about it? Do you know different sides? Do you know what the historical context is? Do you know what the current context is? And do we have an opportunity for you to learn from possibly a panel, or you asked me to create a context? And so that's what we've done, so that we're giving our students an opportunity to develop their perspectives and then have some strategies to channel your feelings and your opinions. So another theme that you had was opportunity to speak honestly, opportunity to develop perspectives and strategies, and then you connected it to our district, our 12 quality school indicators, and one of the indicators is that we provide schools as a neighborhood center. And when you think about a school system or a neighborhood center for dialogues, that you're realizing that one of our 12 indicators. And so how can we as a school system facilitate a dialogue? And who do we need to invite to inform and educate our students? And I'll steal the thunder if I start telling you how we've designed it, but you challenged us as staff with a task to implement a process that allows our students the opportunity to learn and to express and understand multiple perspectives and diversity of experiences and perspectives to understand not just this particular case, but the historical context of it. And I'm really proud of what staff has done, and we want to talk to you today about our progress on it and when the date of the dialogue would be. And I would ask Michaela and Kira to listen carefully to the presentation because ASB is going to have a strong role in this, that to conduct the dialogues, how are we going to do that, and we want ASB to play a role in it as well. But I'll have Mr. Aguirre talk about our process going forward to give students the opportunity that I know both trustees were hoping to see for San Diego Unified.
Before we get into the format itself, I just want to acknowledge that this work reflects the work of Office of Race and Human Relations as well as District Relations. It's a good example of what working outside of silos and working collaboratively between those silos. So I just wanted to make sure I indicate I'm eager to acknowledge the work that was going on. So staff has developed the process that's in current.
Thank you. So staff has developed, I'm used to standing at the microphone. So staff has developed an approach that has two components to it. The first component is a town hall event to be hosted here at the Education Center. And if you look at your first document, it's to be scheduled on November 5th. And at this event, it's a panel that would be moderated by our Race and Human Relations Office in conjunction with other panelists to include our Chief of Police Services. It will also include our Chief Student Services, as well as teachers, parents, and students. And the goal throughout this, and working with other participating organizations such as the Anti-Defamation League, the NAACP, the Office of Assembly Member Shirley Weber, San Diego Urban League, the City Human Relations Commission, and District Attorney's Office, is to really offer a forum for students to have the ability to have a conversation that is a very sensitive conversation, but to allow it to happen in a safe environment where there can be adults that are very skilled in conducting and facilitating this conversation, so that the energies and the emotions that are there can be channeled in a constructive and in a productive manner. So that's the goal for this first town hall event. Again, this is for November 5th, and we're hoping to have it after a board meeting. So we will hold you to a time limit at that board meeting. So, and then the second component to it is going to be the student focus. So it's also a town hall event. This event will be at various high school sites throughout the district. I'll be working with Race and Human Relations to identify which schools it makes sense. It may have to do with the facilities, it may have to do with interest, but it's somewhat a similar concept. Again, having a forum that's safe for students and where they can have these facilitated conversations. One of the different points here is that our Race and Human Relations Office will conduct a training with ASB presidents so that, in essence, ASB presidents can help lead those dialogues and those conversations in a peer-to-peer model. Because a lot of times when students have the ability to lead that dialogue, I think it makes it more effective and just it helps support overall student learning. So we've worked with our Teaching and Learning Office to develop these questions that are in alignment with Common Core. And to ensure, again, that as we're moving together, we have a coherent approach to these set of dialogues. We will also identify a number of panelists, but at the high school level, the panelists will look a little bit different in that it will really be the student leaders through the ASB, the parents, principals, and cluster area representatives and area superintendents. So that's information that we had, and we wanted to share with you again. This is our work to implement the resolution that the board adopted in a way that's in alignment with Common Core, it's alignment with quality neighborhood schools, and more than anything, to give students that ability to have that conversation that perhaps sometimes can be difficult at times in a way that's safe, and it's facilitated by people who are skilled at facilitating this type of conversation. So that's my report.
I'm going to add to it also the fact that whether you knew it or not, it's very Common Core-like. That I know that you had your resolution was very clear on your purposes for this, but we're doing this as something that will happen here at the Ed Center and then through ASB and then after school. But what what Common Core is about, being able to read multiple source documents, make an opinion, form an opinion, defend it, make an argument, or have an opinion and then be able to defend it. And the types of questions I know Mr. Aguirre and Mr. Shahid from Race and Human Relations also integrated with our teaching and learning department and high school principal mentors, looking at what are the kinds of questions that you ask to help bring out multiple perspectives. So the points of view kinds of questions that we're developing go back to multiple perspectives, having evidence for your opinion. You can't just have an opinion and just say it. What's your evidence for that opinion? And so whether you knew it or not, you're contributing to that ability to contribute and participate. We talk about products of public education not just being test scores, but being actively literate, contributing, participating members of society, making a positive difference in the world. This type of after-school activity, community activity, and schools being neighborhood centers for dialogue and discourse, this is a chance to bring that to life and let that see what that looks like.
Mr. Barrera.
So I want to thank Superintendent Martin, Mr. Aguirre, and Mr. Shahid for pulling some real exciting thoughts together around this. So I just wanted to ask a couple of questions. So it sounds like the strategy is first to have a central where we invite students from all over the district to come and participate with community leaders, and then it's kind of a train student leaders, ASB presidents to get out and kind of conduct those dialogues out at the schools. I think that's very, very thoughtful. How do you envision, for instance, in the first dialogue, how does the student-to-student communication happen? So it sounds like we're going to have a panelist of, folks, different community leaders, but how do we make sure that we're getting enough student dialogue so it's not kind of students sitting listening to adults in the first, or just students listening to adults?
Right. So we're going to incorporate student voice by having a mechanism, and we're still, that piece we still have a little bit of time to design, but a mechanism so that students can be part of the dialogue. Whether it's actually having a microphone and somebody can walk with it. We're trying to figure out the technical aspects of that, or passing out note cards. There's different ways we may be able to. It kind of may depend on the technical abilities.
Actually, the draft thinking right now, because this is a group of people with Anti-Defamation League, and there's all the participants, but the idea of student voice was key in your presentation. So currently the thinking is 4 25-minute segments with 20-minute segments where students can actually talk to each other. So there's this presentation part. We want people to hear from the experts. And for, I don't know, experts is the right word, but to hear from the community members, that facilitated dialogue, but then a segment where you turn and talk to each other, and students get a chance to talk here, because you kind of have to practice the talking part here in this forum, so that when you go out to your sites then to lead a dialogue there, you get to practice it in this forum.
Good.
So we're picturing that front couple rows will be the ASB presidents. Everybody's welcome. It's an open event, but since this is an opportunity for the student ASB presidents to be the leader among leaders and listen, and then be able to turn and talk and then listen again, that's formatting it in segments and listening to the multiple perspectives of the people on the panel is how it's being divided up right now.
Good. No, and then the other question is, do you envision after the two sets of dialogues, sort of the centralized and then the school-by-school dialogues, is there some sort of work product, that we would look to from the students, whether it's academic work, whether it's community work, but how do the students kind of take the participation in the dialogues out to something that they're producing?
That's something we can engage with the ASB presidents. There's different ways that you can take a student talk experience, and it's a language experience approach. You can take that into publishing a book, some type of poetry that comes from it, but we want to actually, instead of us telling the kids what do you want to produce, we can give some ideas and show some examples. Like after September 11th, there were some, that's looking way far back, but there were some children's books that were produced from that. But what can come of that I want to look to our student leaders around. We'll give them some ideas and some suggestions, but the idea of a product that lives on is something that, if that's important, we can certainly infuse some support around that.
Good. Thank you.
And along those lines, I think another thing, I've been so impressed with the broadcast journalism facilities and all the multimedia equipment that we have across the district, that this would be a great opportunity for students to make videos, to get clips of what goes on here at all the different high schools and whatever else they can improvise, so at the end of this there would actually could be this product that people could look at their schools and really have a broad vision. I mean, we saw, I think when we were talking about the whole anti-bullying issue a couple of years ago, that at Madison High School they produced this anti-bullying video. The students just did it and created it on their own and created an event, and I think they could do the same thing with this if that's what you come up with.
And I guess a natural extension, or to add on to that, is there's this agenda setting, media agenda setting theory as well. And so my question would be, in terms of the single stories and the great influence and impact that the media plays on the interpretation and the sharing of those single stories, how are we, or have we thought about how we are selecting our multiple source documents to influence the dialogue?
Yeah, that Mr. Shahid is unable to present tonight, but we very much looked back at. There's some source documents. There's actually a YouTube video on the power of the danger of a single story, and to educate ourselves on what that means. That's a term that you're using right now, but do we understand? Do our students understand the power or the danger of a single story? Good, Kira's got it. Do you talk about that?
In my English class last year, we actually did a presentation on Chimamanda Adichie's speech about single stories, and we had to say how we were affected by a single story told about us or ones that we've interpreted ourselves. So it's just really recognizing that there's more than one side to a story, and recognizing that there's many perspectives that are different than your own.
And so we'll introduce what the concept of single story is, which Kira already knows what that concept is, because if you've never heard the term single story and the power or danger thereof, then you start with that. What does that mean? And then if you already know that a single story has a danger to it, that's when you go to multiple source documents. And what documents are you listening to, and what documents are you paying attention to, and what does this media outlet say, and what does this newspaper article say, and what does this community member say? And that's the Common Core approach, is multiple perspectives and multiple source documents. So Ajeen is working with all of the people on the panel, from legal system to police system to Anti-Defamation League, that each of them have different ideas of the source documents that we want people to read, because that's where you learn the multiple perspectives and can have a richer dialogue on perspective. And the framing of single story as a way to introduce why we look at multiple source documents was an important part of the resolution that we paid attention to in designing the dialogue.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I think it's fair to say that the Trayvon Martin's tragic death was beyond, an unimaginable horror for the family, was the most recent spark of a nationwide discussion, maybe not always productive discussions, over the issues surrounding it. And I'm really glad we're doing this, but one of the key issues, which I think was discussed in the resolution as well, is the whole issue of profiling. If you see a person, what is your reaction? Is it because, there's a African-American kid at night in a neighborhood? I mean, years ago, there was a Supreme Court case. The kid kept getting arrested because he just walking in the neighborhood. And the Supreme Court actually held you're allowed to walk in a neighborhood. But this is, and it's not just law enforcement, it's groups and individuals and reactions that we all have to people who are different than us. And as part of that, I'm hoping we're going to take this opportunity to expand the lessons and the examples beyond Trayvon Martin. I mean, and that comes to my question on the participating organizations. I mean, the Latino community, are they going to be involved? Should we invite Senator Oweso then? there, after 9/11 especially, tremendous amount of issue of ethnic profiling of the Arabic and the Muslim community. Just getting on planes and so forth, and we have a large segment of that community. And then obviously you have the LGBTQ community and the disabled community. I mean, people who are quote different get profiled and labeled. So I think it's important to, when we look at the participating organizations, that we use real-life tragic examples, but we also understand that this is not just something that happened across the country, but we have a very large, diverse population in San Diego Unified representing a lot of groups who are currently profiled and are impacted by that. So I hope we'll use this opportunity to use a variety of examples, of which there have been many, whether it's Matthew Shepard or whether it's attacks on Muslims right after terrorist events, or Sikhs who aren't Muslims because of the attire they're wearing. So that, I think, is a great opportunity we have, and I'd hope that would be part of the whole dialogue as we go forward.
Good point.
Definitely, that's some very good feedback, Board Member Barnett. We'll take that, we'll incorporate it into the plan.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Aguirre and Superintendent, for following through on that. Okay, yes, and we'll make sure our meeting is done on time that day. The next item is related to the Tariq Khamisa Foundation to continue providing violence prevention mentoring services, activities at-risk middle school students and their families.
I'll move item E4.
Okay. Okay, moved and seconded. Superintendent Martin, if you would explain.
Yeah, this is an organization that I am familiar with most recently as a principal at Central, but broader than that, well, actually watching the presentation at my school, this is a foundation that if you're not familiar with it, it's important that you know more about it. And it was a memorandum of understanding that was buried in the consent agenda, and I wanted to lift it up into instructional matters and put it into the context of what it looks like when a community organization, a nonprofit organization, takes a concept and an idea that comes from a real experience that was very tragic and painful and turns it into something amazing and gives service to our children. And it actually goes really well with what we just presented, that what we're doing around the dialogues with the Martin Zimmerman and making sure that we expand it to the bigger issue that Trustee Barnett just talked about, profiling. When you think about what the TKF Foundation does, it's exactly taking a pain story and turning it into a lesson, and they've been at it for a lot of years, and they've, I don't know if you can say perfected the art of teaching going from pain to lesson, but they have done very, very powerful, significant work. And as a nonprofit organization in our community, the Memorandum of Understanding is something they've worked for a long time, and seeking funding from other nonprofits to fund nonprofits to make sure they have an opportunity to dialogue and engage and present and mentor in our schools is an important one. So I'm featuring an MOU that you would probably normally approve, and the foundation, when I talk about relevant partnerships and how to make significant contributions into our schools, that when our dollars are dwindling and what do we have district dollars to pay for and what are community foundations and organizations and nonprofits able to do, how do we best support the amazing work, heart work, and hard work of an organization like this. I thought it was important that we feature it. So I think I have somebody from staff. Dr. Fulcher is going to come up and talk a little bit more about it as a sponsoring member, and we have some people from the TKF Foundation here.
And I'm going
to
present from here because I'd like to introduce some very special people in just a few minutes. And thanks for that introduction. And I want to thank TKF for being here as well. I want to accomplish two things today. I want to provide an overview of TKF, and then I want to ask for your support of the MOU. They've had a long-standing relationship with this district dating back to the 90s. You have a packet in front of you that you can peruse at your leisure, but I just want to give you some information about this important organization. What they've provided in the past has been mentoring services. They have community events that they offer to our students and families. They provide quite a bit of assemblies and educational programs at schools. They do great work, and they serve the entire student population, although the proposal we're bringing to you today is for the middle school students. This MOU would allow TKF to implement the Change Up Safe School model. Now, this is a wraparound intervention approach. It includes mentoring, advocacy, community engagement, education, and family services to at-risk youth. And the youth would be referred by school administrators, law enforcement, parents, peers. Students could even self-refer if they wanted to this program. Now, a few minutes ago, you had a wonderful dialogue and discussion about Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman intervention plan. There's little doubt that this incident will lead to quite a few instructive moments and conversations in this district. And I certainly applaud the board and the district for taking on this matter. Unfortunately, it's a sad reminder that in this country, there are about 9 children every day who die because of a violent act. 9 kids. That's saying an awful lot about the state of our society. There are countless others who are exposed to violence, either on their way to school or from school. Again, a sad reminder of a number of violent acts and experiences that these kids have. And they come to school, and we're expecting them to sit and learn and do all those things. And they do well, but we also need to be mindful of some of those other factors that they come to school with. Now, this is one of the reasons TKF has been a valued partner to this district for so many years. As a matter of fact, their first work as an organization started in 1995. And it was during that year that 20-year-old Tariq Kamisa, and this was Azim Kamisa, who's in the audience with us there. Can you raise your hand for us, Azim? His only son was shot and killed while delivering pizzas in San Diego. His killer, Tony Hicks, became the first 14-year-old to stand trial as an adult in the state of California. And Tony's grandfather, Ples Felix, is here as well. So thank you both for being here and for the work you've done, not only in this district, but throughout San Diego County. I do appreciate all that. Now, they co-founded TKF, and as an organization that's committed to stopping and preventing and dealing with youth and societal violence. What we'd like to do, we'd like to, of course, acknowledge them for their fine work. And over the years, they provided services in our schools, skill development workshops, community service programs, youth summer programs, educational programs and assemblies, and mentoring. Although this current proposal, again, targets middle school students. They've served kids from K through 12 in our organizations. They've addressed such issues as impulsivity, aggression, social competence. They focus on things in the classroom that revolve around classroom lessons on empathy, communication, emotion management, problem solving, and bullying. Now, another important note is that all TKF curricula is designed to meet California educational standards for character building, decision making, and personal safety. So they come with a lot of evidence-based material that can be used with the students in our schools. Now, this MOU would allow and offer mentoring for our students, our middle school students, to reduce violent and defiant behaviors and truancy. And the coordination of these services on our middle school campuses would include violence impact assemblies, the in-class second step curriculum, facilitation of workshops, and planning school-wide community events. Now, in addition to that, they'll have a parent-guardian outreach and relevant parent presentations. They'll be offered and coordinated by our TKF officials. And quantifiable evidence will also be expected, such as school attendance, disciplinary, referrals, suspensions, student safety perceptions, community engagement will also be, that kind of data will be collected to provide outcome data. So in short, the MOU and the change-up approach will focus on individuals, educational programs, community engagement, and a strong evaluative component will be there as well. So I want to thank you for your attention and consideration. I just want to take a few minutes, and I've already kind of briefed them on this. We just have a few minutes to introduce a couple of people who will come, Gilbert and one of the mentees in the TKF program as well.
Hi, my name is Med, and I'm going to talk about my time in TKF. I used to be in fights and getting bad grades, and then finally when TKF came to my school, I changed all that, and then I promoted because I thought I wasn't going to promote. Finally, my mentor, Terrence, he changed all that, and then I thank TKF for all their help and support. Thank you.
So real quick, good afternoon, Board Superintendent. Ahmed, I want to acknowledge something here is that when Ahmed, before TKF started working with him, he was spending all his recess in detention and getting Fs. So he was failing academically. We started working with Ahmed, and then immediately detention stopped. He started spending recess with his mentor, and he promoted to Hoover High School with a 3.5 and also with the certificate for most improved. So congratulations. It's no easy task to reduce suspensions by 63% and to reduce truancy by 85% with our students that are the most vulnerable. And what I mean by the most vulnerable are students who wake up to harsh conditions such as community violence, fractured homes, struggling family dynamics. So to be able to do that with this group of kids, we find the strength in this is truly through our partnership with the district. It's powerful. And that it is achieved while educators, counselors, teachers are at the forefront of trying to build tomorrow's leaders. We are the reinforcement structure for those that might fall behind. We come, we pick them up, and we prep them so then your teachers and counselors could work with them and have the same results that we had with Ahmed. A student who promoted and not, 3.5 out of 4, that's pretty good. And it takes a lot of will and strength from the student himself or herself, to be able to turn that around. Because again, Ahmed was once failing, and now he's doing pretty good. And this is across the line for many of our students. We've included thank you notes in those board packets. The students will talk about how they were violent, how they were tempted by drugs, and then finally, after working with a mentor, they found purpose in life, and they were able to stand on their own and promote to high school or are now considering college. So, with that, I applaud our partnership with the district. This year, we'll be launching one site. We've had several sites in the past within the district, but this year, because of our funding, we're only going to be at Monroe Clark, thanks to a California Endowment Grant. And the contract you have in front of you is, yes, it does enable us to serve more schools, but right now, because of funding, we're limited to that. I speak on behalf of your other schools that I've spoken to, and this plea is basically to see if within the district there's resources to help bring TKF to Bell, to Knox, to Wilson, because those principals this morning confirmed and said, we would like you there. Let's work together then and be able to bring those services. And so we could assure Ms. Michaela that every week is anti-bully, nonviolence, and the kids are performing. Thank you.
Thank you.
So in closing, our Counseling and Guidance Department will continue their close relationship and arrangement with TKF. We'll move forward and we'll pursue any expansion that's available or possible out there. With that, we'll take a few questions if you have any, and I'm sure the TKF team will be happy to respond to anything relevant to their support as well.
I just want to make sure we acknowledge the fathers that are here. Azim, Kamisa, and Plez Felix, can you please stand? The lesson that you showed as fathers, that one father reached out to another father after a terrible tragedy and reached out and created a way not just to forgive and an opportunity for forgiveness, but an opportunity to teach thousands of students that you're a model of how to take something that was tragic and difficult and turn to forgiveness and create something that impacts many, many people. So I want to say not only what you teach, but you've taught the lesson of forgiveness to an entire community, and I honor you and thank you for that.
Mr. Brewer.
Yeah, I want to thank our partners from the TKF Foundation. Thank you, Dr. Fulcher, and thank you, Superintendent Martin, for, like you said, elevating this. It's a partnership, that's existed, but we don't want to just kind of bury it in the consent agenda. I think that was important. And I think what this partnership, again, demonstrates, we talked last meeting about the partnership with the Ocean Discovery Institute. We've got high-quality community organizations that have a real track record in making a difference in the lives of young people, and it's our responsibility to not only reach out and work with organizations like TKF, but to make sure, as Dr. Fulcher talked about, how we integrate that work with the work that we do during the school day with the professional educators. I think what this partnership represents, and again, I appreciate Superintendent Martin elevating this, we can't simply allow the work that TKF does to only occur at one of our middle schools. We know that this work should be going on certainly throughout our middle schools and the schools that, we mentioned Bell and Knox, and certainly I know in my district, Memorial and Roosevelt, and we could name, really every middle school in the district that this program makes sense. And what's getting in the way of that is, luckily in City Heights with the work with the California Endowment, we've got support to do this at Clark. However, we've got an entire community in San Diego that we should be reaching out to and having conversations with about when philanthropy, when people want to do things to help to support our students and to help our schools get stronger. This is precisely an example of where philanthropists can put their support to enable this work to go on at many middle schools. So Superintendent Martin and I have had a conversation about TKF, and I would like to ask the superintendent to work in partnership with TKF to reach out to philanthropists in this community and let's identify how to get this program where it needs to be, which is really throughout our middle schools.
Michaela.
I also went to Bell Middle School, and I did experience TKF. Although my life wasn't as horrific as my classmates, I did see a powerful dynamic that it brought to our school, and it did change everybody, the way we looked at each other. And with TKF, the counselors who are brought to our school, they serve as role models, which these students might not have at home for the students at risk. And so I do think that all of our middle schools and our district should support this program.
Thank you, Michaela. And I think communication is really the key. I mean, I think when people hear this story and know what has been done, it really opens people up to the possibilities. And I would invite you also to participate in our Vision 2020 event on October 29th, because I think the more that the word is out among the entire district and all the communities, just letting them know about the work you're doing, I think, is going to open a lot of doors in terms of us getting the support that we need. We're talking our whole mission for a quality school in every neighborhood. This goes exactly to the point of a community-based school that has organizations, individuals within the community who are really making a difference and working with the schools to do that. And this is a story we really need to get out. So I appreciate you being here tonight, and again, for Superintendent Martin, elevating this so that we can discuss this.
Could I actually just expand the motion not only to support the MOU, but to ask the superintendent to work with the TKF Foundation to develop a strategy to expand this into multiple middle schools?
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
With community organizations. Exactly. Yeah, no, this is about reaching out to the community to help build support so we can expand the program.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll accept that friendly amendment.
Okay. All right. Please vote on this agreement, this important agreement. Okay, that passes 5-0. Thank you very much for being here and joining us. Okay, at this point, is there a motion on the board consent agenda?
I'll move F1, 2, and 3.
Okay, second, please. Okay, Mr. Barrera, please vote. Okay, and that passes 5-0. And then we have item G2 with board direction to anchor spring break to the week of March 31st.
I'll move G2.
Okay, moved and seconded. And just to clarify, what we're doing is anchoring before spring break has floated around, and the idea is it will be around the end of March, beginning of April, but it will be anchored to the March 31st day. This is also an agreement with the community colleges and other educational institutions around town so that we coordinate our dates for spring break. Okay, so please vote. Okay, and that passes 5-0.
Move G3.
Okay. The resolution for the San Diego Unified School District Diversity Committee, San Diego Unified Drew Diversity Committee.
I'll move G3.
Okay. Mr. Beiser is moving G3, and is there a second?
There's a second.
And there's
Probably a first, but
okay. And a third from Ms. Martin. Okay. And we have, we have a motion and a second. We have some speakers on this item. Okay, go ahead and read the resolution so everybody knows. I'm sorry I omitted that, so people will know exactly what we're talking about.
Exactly. So I'll go ahead and begin by reading the resolution, and then I have a few brief comments, and then we can hear from our speakers. Whereas the San Diego Unified School District, San Diego Unified, must include the perspectives, opinions, and experiences of the broadest possible cross-section of people to inform San Diego Unified through its hiring practices. Hiring practices will begin with recruiting a large pool of diverse and qualified candidates from which employees are selected based on demonstrated knowledge, skills, competence, and diversity of perspective as it relates to serving the diverse needs of San Diego Unified San Diego Unified students, always striving to exceed the demographic profile of the student population. And whereas selection and hiring practices that support diversity will positively impact the composition of San Diego Unified staff, communities, advisors, consultants, and as a result provide teaching and learning that is rigorous, relevant, and engaging for all students. And whereas San Diego Unified will seek out and consider the perspectives of diverse individuals through its hiring practices so as to overcome current and historic systemic barriers and exclusion, thus ensuring that its students and their families have equitable opportunities to participate in a supportive school climate and a broad, challenging, and culturally responsive curriculum. And whereas a supportive environment that values diversity in the service of students makes it possible for San Diego Unified to achieve Vision 20 goals and the strategic process for developing quality schools in every neighborhood. Moreover, diversity goals deliver on the hope and promise of public education to produce actively literate, contributing members of society that make a positive difference in the world. And whereas diverse individuals from different genders, national origins, ethnicities, races, and cultures, and possess different skills and abilities, lifestyles, and beliefs that represent diversity of San Diego Unified School population is important. And whereas San Diego Unified will establish a diversity committee called San Diego Unified Through Diversity with the support of the Race and Human Relations Department with the purpose of becoming a diverse and inclusive San Diego Unified School District, San Diego Unified Through Diversity will, number one, increase San Diego Unified awareness, understanding, and support of becoming more diverse and inclusive. Number two, increase the diversity of individuals serving, leading, governing, and advising San Diego Unified with all aspects of San Diego Unified responsibilities. Institutionalize diversity and inclusion throughout all aspects of staffing by developing diversity goals, establishing a consistent means of measuring established goals, advertising positions consistently in ethnically diverse print and multimedia forms, including but not limited to local and national publications of the following groups: African American, Asian, Filipino, Latino, LGBT. And number 4, provide semi-annual progress reports to the board, share lessons learned and best practices with all stakeholder groups. Now, therefore, be it resolved that San Diego Unified, through Diversity Committee, will support the board to institutionalize diversity and inclusion throughout all aspects of staffing so as to respond to the needs of its diverse student population, families, and communities. And I have another thought. I think we're going to hear from our speakers first, and then I'll have some comments.
Okay, thank you. Okay, on public testimony, we normally have 10 minutes for each side. However, I do not have any that are in opposition to this, so I'm going to include everybody on the in favor side. I'm going to, because it's an important topic, I'm going to allow the full time. So if I give you the 3 minutes, please watch the little buttons here, so when the yellow comes on, you can wrap up your comments so that we can move on to the next person. But I want everybody to be able to speak comprehensively about this. So the first 3 speakers we have are Assembly Member Dr. Shirley Weber, Joanne Fields, and Donna Gonzalez.
I don't know about you, but I would never cut off Member Weber after any time limit. So.
I'm going to use time limit because I think this is probably a done deal. At least I believe in you. And so I'm going to believe that I don't have to talk so hard or preach so much to the choir, but I always believe the choir does need to practice periodically in order to be in tune. I'm Shirley Weber, Assemblywoman from the 79th District, Sacramento, California, office located in the State Building here in San Diego. Let me just say that, first of all, I'm really pleased that this resolution has come forward. Pleased because it does make an effort to codify your belief system, that not only do you believe in diversity, but you plan to operationalize it. And to me, that is critical. I was recently at a hearing in Sacramento where I listened very carefully on our Boys and Men of Color panel, and I asked a critical question: how diverse is the staff that's making these decisions at the state superintendent's office? And I got a duh response, because there were none. And I said, how can you expect to really address this issue if you don't have people on your staff who know the population you're talking about, have worked with the population, and plan to bring change? That if you're going to tell me you believe in diversity, you believe in those things, then it has to be reflected in who works for you, with you, and around you. I can tell you from having served on the school board, as you know, for 8 years, that it makes a difference who's in the room. It makes a difference who's in the room making the decisions about the children in this district. You're a district that's almost 80% diverse. The ability to actually respond to the needs of the students of this district is going to be the responsibility of those who are making that decision. And you don't want a misstep. You don't want something that much later on you discovered it could have been differently if you had a different group of people in the room making the decision. I can't tell you how many times I sat in closed session because I was a woman, because I was African American, but also because I was a woman from a very poor background, that my perspective on what was going to happen was very different. And when I introduced ideas, we discovered occasionally that I was absolutely correct, that the people in the room had a totally different experience and different response to the issues I raised. And it didn't make my response better as such, but it truly reflected the diversity that's there. You're challenged with closing the achievement gap. In Sacramento, we believe very strongly that we will need at least 2 million more degrees, bachelor degrees, by the year 2020. That we're going to need that, and it's going to come from a population that's not already in line to achieve those degrees, which means it's going to be our black and brown population in the state of California that will be needed simply to run California. So your issue of diversity is not just only an issue of fairness, it's an issue of being effective in helping California be the California that we want. And that's what's important to understand, that if we're going to have Californians who are able to work in California, we're going to keep the economy we have, we're going to help lower the prison population that we're dealing with right now, we're really going to make California the California that I lived in as a child, then we're going to have those students be successful. And they're going to be successful because you have the right people in the room making the decisions about the future of those children. So I simply want to say this is, as you begin to market it, because someone will come and tell you, oh, all you want to do is give people jobs. All you want to do is do these kinds of things. No, you tell them, I'm in the process of saving California, economically, socially, politically. That's what we're in the process of doing it. And the only way we're going to do it is to have the best minds with the perspectives and the understanding of the children in the room who are making the decision from the beginning and not responding to it after the fact. So I commend you for this resolution. It has to happen. It needs to happen. And basically putting it in writing and making your commitment says to all of us that this is what you'll be held accountable for, this is what you will work for, and this is what we will help you to achieve. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Must I speak after Dr. Weber? She's such a great speaker, and my boss. I too also want to speak in favor of the resolution. 1 year ago, around this time, at Morris High School, we had teachers that were about to be laid off for the Filipino language class. Despite 40% of the student population there is over 40% is Filipino. The feeder school, Bell Middle School, had over 35% student population Filipino, but yet the class was going to be cut. And then earlier you heard how our students, families, and community are connected to the school through this class. We don't have a Filipino outreach person in the Ballard Center. Yet, when you look at the student population numbers, it's divided African American, Latino, Filipino, and Asian. Yet we don't have anyone outreaching. So I do appreciate that this resolution is coming forward so that different perspectives, different people can bring a voice to the table. Hopefully there will be a Filipino VP at Bell Middle School. I know there's a vacancy there, and I know that there's a qualified candidate. But it's not just about that position. There's many positions, whether it's math and counseling or on the administration. So thank you for bringing this resolution forward and giving an opportunity to be at the table, not just be a menu item. Thank you.
She thought she was going to have a hard time. How do I follow those two? Good evening, first of all, to Cindy Martin and the board members and to all of the attendees here tonight. And so my name is Donna Gonzalez, and I'm a student at Morris High School. And I can say Morris is a melting pot for students of different backgrounds, cultures, and colors. And we're all striving to achieve one goal, which is to receive a higher education. And so every day I have the pleasure of meeting different people of different behaviors, good and bad. But it's a joy for me to be able to be around such a diverse student population. And it feels good to know that these people with different lifestyles are able to do things like play sports together, do their homework together, be best friends with each other. And I really admire the people who encourage this type of setting. So I am thankful for Board Member Marnie Foster's resolution to help ensure a diverse staff that reflects the students that they serve. And so it is very important to me as a student of Morris High to have teachers, counselors, and leaders that understand my background as a Filipino. And so there are many campuses that don't offer Filipino language classes, and there are not many campuses that have also a population which over 40% of the students are Filipinos. But I am proud to say that I have been that I have been really active in the Filipino language and culture program at my school in middle school at Bell, which was one of the pioneering schools of the Filipino language program in the district. And so, and also in Morse High School. And it really did have a really big impact on my life. Without them, I wouldn't have been able to go to these like health cares or home cares and do all of these community service. And this is because we had all of these Filipino teachers. Please support this resolution, because so that all students from all walks of life will be able to learn from someone that cares and understands them on a more personal level. And so I would like to thank you once again for this time that you have given me to share my thoughts.
Thank you for sharing. Okay, Michael Lapid, I'm not sure I pronounced your name correctly, Wendell Bass, and Angela Bass.
Michael Lapid, like Rapid.
Okay.
Very close.
Okay.
Good evening, Superintendent, board members. My name is Michael Lapid. I'm actually a current substitute teacher for Sweetwater School District. I'm also officer for Filimeda, which is the Filipino American Educators Association for San Diego. And I'm accompanied by my wife, president of Filimeda, also Filipino language teacher at Bell Middle School. And basically wanted to just touch upon this particular resolution and let you know that Filimeda is definitely supporting this resolution for diversity in our community. Just recently we had the Philam Fest where we were able to create an impact in the community of sharing our culture and uniting with diversity in the community. And there's nearly like 10,000 people that came out to the festival, and there's almost about 40% of students in the district today. So it goes to show you that Filipino Americans are a big part of the community, but furthermore that we need to be able to have representation and opportunities of professional development in our communities. Because to be honest, you know, we're a nonprofit. There's all these grassroots organizations. We do a lot of volunteering. We do a lot of, you know, there's teachers now, there's a few administrators, but to be honest, there's not that much awareness, you know? And so when we push this supportive resolution to provide that awareness of diversity, then it'll inspire people just like myself to finish that credential, to get into education. And it goes to show that, you know what, it's not just one dynamic, it's a diverse dynamic, so therefore other people can be a part of this industry. Because to be honest, we're on, like, we had the crisis in our economy, but we're at a point where we're recovering. And I think we need to be able to recover and open the door. Open the door to people that can actually say they want to help the community. They don't want to just do the typical job. You know, they want to be leaders. They want to be educators. And that's our message to the community, is that when we have a resolution that has diversity involved with it, then it goes to show you that, Donna, you can be the next board member. You can be the next superintendent. And it goes to show you that we want diversity within our community. So all I want to just conclude with is basically saying that Filimeda is definitely a support of this resolution. And I think it's going to create a better impact that we share this diversity so that we can spread the word for better professional development. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Wendell Bass, retired principal, San Diego Unified School District, adjunct professor at Point Loma Nazarene University, and also a part of African American Educators Association on the Blueprint Task Force. I begin my comments simply to saying that every one of our children are brilliant. And I started this way as well, that if we're going to be about diversity, then diversity needs to be reflected from the top to the bottom. So when I look across the platform, it really is not too representative. And that's the political system that we have, not too reflective of the community that we live in. But it's important what you're doing, because you're making a real statement about diversity in your belief system. So it starts there, and that's a wonderful thing. I prided myself in having a staff at Lincoln High School that was 50% people people of color and 50% white population. But we got to go a little bit deeper. Hire all the people that you want to and make them as diverse as you possibly can. But the issue still is, can they appropriately teach our children? Can they lift up the achievement of our children? And one day, yes, we could celebrate. Look what we did by having a more diverse staff. But the real critical issue that I'm going to always ask is, and how are the children? And did the children do better as a result of what we've done? We know that right now what we're doing is not good, in the sense that we have too many children who are failing, African American and Hispanic children in particular. So we established 17 goals for our African American children through the task force. We didn't come close to meeting any one of those targets. So that tells me that we got a lot of work to do. I'm hopeful that we can do that work and that we can lift our children up. I would have loved to have seen, as soon as test scores came out, and I know that we had transition related to leadership in our district, but where were our children in that mist? And where was the discussion about our children? See, because they were failing, and we had the results in front of us. So I love the fact that we're doing this. I support the resolution 100%. Race, as we know, is multi-layered, and this is one of the ways of beginning to deal with it. So I applaud what it is that you are doing, but we still need to ask the question, and how are our children? Because that's who we're really responsible for and accountable to. So as we go through this, let's make certain that we don't forget them. A little concerned in terms of staffing right now, in terms of senior leadership. Where are those people that look like me, that look like some of the people that are sitting in this audience? If we're going to pass this resolution, we need to be very, very concerned about that and ask the hard questions. And then those that get asked those questions accept, that question and then embrace it. And let's use diversity. I'm going to close with this. Use diversity as an opportunity to do good, not as an obstacle to overcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Angela Bass. I am Vice President of Partners for Developing Futures and a retired area superintendent here in San Diego, and it's a pleasure to be here. I'm here in support of the resolution. I think Trustee Foster has made a courageous move. In San Diego Unified, when I began in 1979, we were under a court consent decree. And I had the good fortune of being a race human relations facilitator for 7 years. Now, we were under a court order, and our role was to go out and to meet with staffs across this district, meet with classified staff, certificated staff, and really try to provide an open dialogue, an open conversation about how do we appreciate and celebrate the diversity. I love this resolution, Foster, because we are allowed to uphold this in our district as a core value. When diversity is a core value, everyone gets better. And even in the 80s and the 90s and before it phased out, and I know we still have a race and relations department, I think it's important to allow people to know that each one of our children, and Dr. Weber said, more than 70% of our children are children of color. And we need to embrace and celebrate that inclusiveness and who they are and their contributions. And when we have a representative staff and we have a representative that matches our student body, then our children have someone to look up to as role models. I think all great teachers, all great educators are role models, but it's nice. I did not see my first African-American teacher until I was in college. It's not acceptable. We have to cast our net wide. I just think that we can create something here that's unique. We can create and lift the consciousness of our community, and that diversity should always be a question that we ask in any decision that we make. As we say, children are at the center of all decisions made. In that equation, we need to place diversity, because we're just rich. I live in Mira Mesa. I've lived there for 34 years. We have lived there for 34 years. And I love it because to my left, my family is Latino. To my right, my family is Filipino. in front of me, the people, my friend Boone across the street is Laotian. I want my children to live in a community that embraces everyone and that loves everyone. And I think this district can be a role model to uplift that core value and hold it up high. And when we do that, then we're really in true pursuit. Academically and then socially, emotionally, we're in pursuit of excellence. The other day I was reading, and I'll just close with this. In 1992, Thurgood Marshall, 3 weeks before he died, 38 years post Brown versus the Board of Education decision, gave a speech. And we just remember we're almost 60 years past. But in 1992, he gave a speech and he questioned the progress of race relations in the Brown decision of 1954. Marshall said, "I wish I could say that racism and prejudice were only distant memories and that liberty and equality were just around the bend. I wish I could say America has come to appreciate the diversity and see and accept similarity. But as I look around, I see not a nation of unity but division. African American, white, indigenous and immigrant, rich and poor, educated and illiterate. San Diego has always had a great opportunity for greatness, and I think this resolution will provide a heightened level to say we are the best because of who we are and the diversity of who we are. And when we promote that along with the strong academic performance, we will be a community of excellence and we will be a model of excellence. So I just thank you for this, and I look forward to this resolution being passed and supported and really being held up as a hallmark of San Diego Unified. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, a few more speakers, Ramon Espinal, Kevin Harris, and Jesus Montana.
Good afternoon, Madam Superintendent, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Ramon Espinal, Rosa Parks Elementary School. I am here speaking on behalf of the Superintendent Latino Advisory Committee in support of Trustees Foster's and Weiser resolution. We are very pleased that these efforts is taking place at this time. Right now, over 60,000 students in our districts are Latino. Over 13,000 students are African American, and over 10,000 students are Asian. So this is a very important steps for us to take. As our student population becomes increasingly more culturally and ethnically diverse, it will make sense that our district staff mirror its demographics. This initiative could help serve as a catalyst to increase diversity in our teaching force as well as our central office. I strongly believe that cultural diversity enhances school experience. Thus, increasing the number of teachers of color is not only a matter of philosophical commitment to diversity in career opportunities. Teachers of color provide real-life example to minority students for future paths. We need to create district-wide initiatives to fund teacher preparation programs aimed at low-income and minority teachers. It is about time we begin to embark on the path to create the necessary conditions and infrastructure to nurture, recruit, and bring in a more diverse workforce, which would help us bridge the current existing gap and which will mirror our student population. Thank you for listening, and I'm calling all of you to really support this resolution.
Thank you. Kevin.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Harris. I'm a father of a child that attends one of the San Diego Unified School Districts, and I am absolutely in support of this resolution. But as a father, I'm extremely concerned, and to echo the words of what everyone has said here, especially my State Assemblywoman Dr. Shirley Weber, I have been reading and reflecting as to some of the concerns that I have as a father with the lack of diversity thereof from the leadership down here at the Board of Education. And I'd like to read a little excerpt. It says, this is from the rollingout.com. In an attempt to measure the degree in which Mexican children are affected by the legacy of European colonialism and present-day images they are bombarded with via the media in Mexico, they conducted an experiment after the famous 1940 Clark study. The 1940 Clark study was where they had black children with white dowels to see which one they felt more at home, what they felt more comfortable with. So the Mexicans did a study like this. The Mexican National Council to Prevent Discrimination are circulating a video in which children who are mestizos, or half Spanish, half Indian, are asked to pick the good dowel and the dowel that most resembles them. The children, mostly brown-skinned, almost uniformly say the white dowel was better or was most like them. The children, mostly brown-skinned, say the white dowel was better. I am not afraid of white, he responds. You hear a woman's voice on the video. He responds, I am not afraid of whites. So the question is, do we have some Latin tendencies in our subconscious that makes us afraid of the African American, male or female? And so when we speak of diversity and the impact and the significance of it, and we look at the Clark study compiled with what they have just recently done here in Mexico, one has to really go into prayer and meditation and ask God to guide them to see the heart of what we are and who we are. God has created us to be human beings, loving, compassionate. Our Constitution says that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men is created equally, and we have inalienable rights. So we need to look at each other and be inclusive of one another, because when we don't, there's a problem. There's a problem. And as a father, I would tell you, coming from a long line of, civil servants and my mother was a freedom fighter and advocate, marched with Martin Luther King, slept in the fields of Georgia, was on the March of Birmingham. I have no problem whatsoever putting on that hat if needed to be. We don't see some changes made. So I'm charging each and every one of y'all with the responsibility when you're behind closed doors to do what is necessary for us to succeed as a civilization. Thank you.
Thank you.
I feel short after him. I'm Jesus Montana, president of the Police Officers Association. First of all, as the association, don't get me wrong, we wholly support this resolution. But in echoing Mr. Bass's comments, don't let this need to hire minorities into positions blind us from hiring qualified minorities into those positions. That would hurt us more than it'd help us. But this resolution, on the other hand, is a great tool to use for our advertising of bringing qualified minorities to work for our district. And in the words of a student that I once had, one of the things I miss about from my new position is working with students, my last assignment being at Claremont. I had a young man who was on the verge of going into a gang. And as I was sitting with him and trying to figure out why, what was his attraction, why in the world would we want to go down this avenue, he looked at me and it's like, Officer Montana, you don't know how it is to be Hispanic or be Mexican. He must have only seen the uniform, I'm not sure what. But I thought I looked pretty Mexican. He goes, you don't know how it is to have only a mother and a father who's not there. You don't know how it is to be poor. Officer Montana, you just don't know how it is. And I had to explain to him, well, one, I'm Mexican. Just look at me. Don't look at the uniform. But I grew up in East San Diego. I was surrounded by gangs in the 80s and the 90s, mostly in the 80s. Sorry if I don't seem a little young to you. But I lived poor. Having a car was a luxury. Having a color TV was a luxury. And I was raised essentially by my mother, and I had to raise my siblings. It was then that I saw, well, How did you do it? And that's when that dialogue began, because he no longer saw a uniform. He didn't see me as a staff member, as he wouldn't have seen an adult as a teacher. He saw someone he could relate to and then move forward. And luckily to say, he did not join that gang because he was able to relate with a staff member. So thank you for this resolution, and let's put it to good work.
Thank you. Okay, board comments. Ms. Foster.
So when we talk about diversity and we focus on staffing as one of many approaches, we start with the expectation that we are seeking out, recruiting, attracting highly qualified individuals who happen to be of underrepresented, diverse backgrounds, because they're there and they're prevalent. So that's the expectation, just to be clear. And also, I think it's important to state that just because someone shares my ethnicity and background doesn't necessarily mean that they represent my views or the views of the larger group. And I think a good example of that, and I'll move on, is the author of Prop 209. So when we have our committee that looks at diversity, we have the best and brightest minds, and we know how to identify, attract, and lift up in our great pool of candidates those that have the capacity and the experience to represent the very diverse student population that we have. So having said that, diversity is about co-developing, collaborating, and addressing the needs of a larger urban district, not with mostly those that think like you, share similar backgrounds and experiences, but with perspectives, backgrounds, and skill sets that enable and ensure San Diego Unified creates conditions and systems where all students progress and are successful in the world. Diversity, simply put, is a collective and powerful lens that makes it possible to achieve 2020 vision. And then I also have to state, we cannot only look at the surface demographics of staffing versus our student population. We must dig deeper and look at where staffing is strategically placed. Like in San Diego Unified's Office of Teaching and Learning, where is diversity of senior leadership? Does diverse staff that exists have the opportunity for input in curriculum and training that impacts teaching and learning? Where is the diversity? And I'm not saying that there is or isn't. I'm just saying this is the critical thinking that we need to employ. Where's diversity in operations? How does decision-making make sure equitable placement of resources and supports happen at the school site? Also, diversity ensures we have culturally relevant training and instruction in our Office of Professional Development and Office of Teaching and Learning. For example, with the adoption of Common Core and the critical thinking it requires of our students, we need to dig deeper to critically analyze texts and problem solve. This cannot happen without being able to relate and develop relationships of trust and respect with our students. It's critical to be able to reach our students before we're able to teach our students. And I think that this resolution makes all things possible. And with this resolution, we need to dream big.
Thank you. Other board members, Mr. Barnett.
This district has an amazing diversity, but the thing that makes it more amazing is that 50,000 kids every day don't go to their neighborhood school, and they go all over the place. Now, that's causing us some challenges because of the desire for community-based schools. And the fact that 900 kids who come to Mission Bay High every day don't live in the Mission Bay cluster, on the one hand is a plus, on the other hand, they're spending 2 hours a day on a bus, and some are choosing to do that because they're not getting the quality education in their home schools. As a parent, one of the benefits I have enjoyed of public education, and my kids are almost done, is having diversity in public education versus private. And I will say to Wendell Bass, you mentioned the comment about the students and the test scores. And I will tell you, I think I've been through 3 rounds of test scores on this board. And every time they've come forward as we've talked about progress and growth and congratulating ourselves on that, I've pointed out very clearly that essentially the achievement gap hasn't really changed. And specifically, every year have mentioned Lincoln. And I'll tell you, I take personal responsibility as a member of this board for the failures that we've had over decades to meeting the needs of especially our students of color and poorer students in this district, which is one of the primary reasons I supported bringing Cindy Martin on, because I believe she has shown that she can, in a very diverse community of the poorest kids and English learners and others, show success. The one concern I always have with resolutions is boards are great at passing resolutions. We're going to have another one later on the agenda with goals and objectives, and we pass them, we congratulate ourselves, and we slap ourselves on the back, and then nothing changes. We've done our work. And part of what I think we need to do is look at the barriers that we've created to not reaching out. And one specific one I've mentioned publicly and I've mentioned privately is our contract with our administrators in this district, a term called priority consideration, which was approved by the previous board with Ms. Foster wasn't on, and I didn't support it. It says if we're filling administrative positions, we have to choose, not only just choose first, but within the district. And I understand the reason why we'd like to do that and why the organization representing administrators would like that. But it says that we, the committee, and people reviewing principals or other positions cannot even know the names, background, history, anything about other people who've applied from anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. That was a decision this school board made over my objection, and so we've therefore limiting the pool contractually of people who we don't even know who apply. And that's something where we can make specific changes and say we want everyone in the world who wants to apply to be an administrator here or a teacher here or a landscaper or a bus driver or whatever it means. Anyone should be able to apply, and therefore, and if we reach out more, like we do in our Prop S and Prop Z, we have specific funds and targets to reach out to certain zip codes to meet certain underserved communities. So we have the responsibility of not just passing a resolution and having the committee and saying, oh, the committee is going to take care of it, but what actions do we take as policymakers that make it more difficult to meet these lofty goals that we want. So I think it's an important discussion, it's an important resolution, but the last point is we need the facts of where we are today. And that means, what does our workforce look like? who do they what are the communities, and what are our, we focus on the kids, and I don't know those facts, and that's something we've asked the superintendent to develop for us, so we at least know the starting point. But ultimately, I want my kids to be taught by people who don't just look like them, because there's a lot of lessons to be learned. And I want them to go to school with kids who don't look like them or have different backgrounds. Because while it's important to have role models, and it's important to have the people who understand your culture and background, it's important for all, especially those kids who, and as we were talking about with the Trayvon Martin thing earlier, people who have been isolated, insulated their entire life. And in some ways, there's great need there as well. So I think as we go along in this process, I agree with you, sir. What's the impact on the kids? And I will hold myself accountable ultimately to their success as best I can, and ultimately the voters will as well. So thank you.
I'm thrilled that Marnie Foster is pushing this issue. It's an issue that we've been dealing with and grappling with in the school board for quite some time. And I was honored when she reached out to me so that we could kind of put our heads together and figure out what could we do to move forward and create broader pools for consideration, so that we could pick, not necessarily pick different races, but so that we could expand the pool and make sure that we're letting people know in all the underrepresented communities that we have positions that are being posted, so that qualified people from those underrepresented groups can apply for those positions, throw their name into the hat, so that we can at least evaluate them on their merits and then hire the best qualified person. I think by focusing our energies on making sure that we're aggressively recruiting and advertising positions. For example, there are a lot of great universities with great teacher programs. Howard University, a lot of other schools around the country. Maybe it just requires an effort to us to reach out to those teacher schools and let them know when we have positions available in San Diego Unified, and please apply, because we'd like to measure you against all the other candidates for consideration of opportunities in our school district. And I think that focus and that energy is a positive way to make sure that we're getting the best and the brightest for our kids and encouraging more diverse pools to be considered.
Richard? No, I thank Ms. Foster and Mr. Beiser for bringing this forward, and I think your leadership and the resolution, the thoughtfulness of the resolution, looking at this comprehensively and systematically and with data to back it up. I think it's important that as this committee comes together, that we identify people already in our district. And when Jesus, came up and spoke, I thought. That was a perfect example, because what we need to do is, at all levels in our district, from people who are teaching in our classrooms and driving our buses, and principals and administrators at all levels, we need to identify people whose experience within this district, I think, will be instructive, and allow people to speak honestly. Is this a district that is supportive and encouraging of diverse folks to move into positions of leadership? Is this a district that systematically places barriers in front of people that might not that we might not even be aware of? So I think we've got tremendous perspective within the district that needs to be represented in the committee, and I would say the committee should be reaching out, to people in our district and helping build our strategies from perspectives of people who are, again, we've talked about before, many people in our district, including leaders, are themselves products of San Diego Unified. Have come through our schools, are now leading our schools in different ways, and I think that perspective needs to be at the forefront of this work.
Okay. This is a principle that's clear that we all agree on. There's the issue of principle, and then there's the issue of implementation. One of the things that we state in our Vision 2020 document is that we want our staff to parallel and reflect the diversity of our student body. And we put that down as a goal. I can't say that we have really had measures of that in terms of are we making improvement in that. And I know one thing that was pointed out, that we're really getting some baseline information in terms of where we're at in terms of this discrepancy, which is large, between our staff population and our student population. But I also know that it's not just a matter of statistics, because there are different positions, different levels of influence, different types of input that people have, and it's a lot like unpeeling an onion. We can start with the basic information of this gap in terms of our student population and our staff population, but there's a lot more reflected as we go into it, is what does it really mean to be a diverse school district that is not just statistically diverse, but really is appreciating and elevating the differences between all of us and our commonality, and really working on that together. And I think that's we're looking at our staff right now in terms of hiring practices, but we can also look to our student body. Just for example, talking about teachers, what can we be doing with our high school students, and in terms of getting the right students from various communities, really into the pipeline, and helping them get through college and come back and serve Sandia Unified to the communities from which they come. So I agree with everybody. It's not just a matter of patting ourselves on the back and saying this is a resolution and rah, rah, rah. But we're really setting, I think it's what's happened with a lot of other issues. We first have stated a principle and it sat there for a while, and okay, now let's move forward and do something about that. And I think the formation of this committee to look at this thoughtfully is a good way to start. So thank you to all the people who came to spoke about this important topic. Okay, please vote on this resolution. Okay, and that passes 5-0. There's a request for a 3-minute break. We will take a 3-minute break. Okay, I said 3. It's a very short break.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to go through, I'll do a PowerPoint and outline the philosophy behind some of the changes that are so, but for different budget, the guidelines for implementation. The guidelines for implementing the policy. So anything you need from me? Okay. Thanks for sending me the update on the I had told her I was
Okay, we're going to resume the meeting. We just have a few more items that we need to cover. So we were going to go now.
I'll move item G4.
Item G4, we're going to wait just 60 seconds to allow people to collect themselves, and then we will proceed with a vote. So I will
G4, I'll second.
Slowly read it. G4, ratification of tentative agreement with San Diego School Police Officers Association, POA successor memorandum of understanding. This was already displayed at the last board meeting, and this is simply the ratification that we are voting on at this point. And now that we have some silence, was there a motion on that item? Yeah. Motion and seconded. Okay, very good. So please vote on item. Are there speakers on this item? Okay, no speakers on this item. Please vote. Okay, we now have item G5, which is the resolution in support of lower K3 class sizes.
I'll move G5.
Okay, there's a motion to move. And second, G5. And I think it would be good for their either Mr. Brer or Mr. Beiser, either one, to give an explanation of what it is before we vote.
Yeah. Whereas keeping class sizes small at all grade levels, particularly K3, is a research-based best practice for increasing student achievement, whereas national research, along with our own experience in this district, shows that ideal class sizes for K3 grade levels should be fewer than 17 per class, whereas up until the state of California began cutting K-12 education at historic levels in 2008, students in the district benefited from the statewide class size reduction program aimed at keeping K-3 class size levels at 20-1, whereas as the state budget cutbacks deepened and continued over the last 5 years, San Diego Unified demonstrated its commitment to low class sizes by maintaining class sizes at lower levels than averages for many comparable large urban school districts. Whereas, as the budget crisis for public education will continue for several more years, leaving San Diego Unified facing annual deficits for at least the next 3 years in order to simply maintain its current staffing and class size levels, whereas, despite the improved economy and the voter passage of Prop 30, the governor projects that funding will not be restored to 2008 levels adjusted for inflation until 2020. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the San Diego Unified School District Board of Education seeks to bring K-3 class size levels down to levels consistent with research-based best practices as soon as possible while maintaining fiscal responsibility. Be it further resolved that the Board of Education and Superintendent of the San Diego Unified School District call on all stakeholders to advocate to the Governor and state legislator to accelerate the restoration of necessary funding to public schools consistent with the will of the California's voters.
Okay. And so to summarize the point, I believe, of the resolution, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that it's the board acknowledging that we have had and continue to have a strong focus on the importance of research-based good results from lower class size, and that as the budget permits, we will, as soon as we can, begin lowering class size. We have to live within the realities that we're facing right now. One thing we can do is unite together to accelerate the pace, because the funding is going to be coming in, but relatively slowly. So I think that's just what what you are trying to say through this resolution, correct? So we have some public speakers on this item, and then we can have some more discussion about it. I wasn't trying to editorialize. So let me see here. We have several speakers. I will do the same thing I did with the last group in terms of allowing 3 minutes, but please try to limit it to 2 minutes so we can get everybody in and not be here all night. So try to wrap up when you see the yellow light coming on. You can all come forward and then speak in any order. Lana O'Shea, David Page, Michelle Sanchez, Lindsay Birmingham, and Amy Redding. Go ahead.
All right, Michelle Sanchez, SDA Board Secretary and Garfield High teacher. Well, there is some movement in regards to the lower class size reduction, but it's not enough. Our community didn't vote for words, they voted for action. And that action is for you to lower our K-3 class size to at least 24:1, now and not later. Our community packed the boardroom last week. Over 2,000 educators and people signed our petition, and they understand the importance of our lower class size. Honor our parents, our kids, and our community and lower class size now. If we do not lower class size, we risk losing millions of dollars of our state funding due to penalties. Do what's right for our students, amend this resolution to reduce class size now, and protect our crucial state funding for our students' education. The students deserve more than words, they deserve action. So again, please amend this resolution to reduce K-3 class size now. Thank you.
Go ahead, next person.
Good evening, board members and superintendent. My name is David Page. I'm here representing the parents that are members of Up for Ed, where we believe that parents deserve to be the real and meaningful stakeholders in their children's decision making. And again, we have a case here where an item comes to this board with no funding listed in there, similar to the LEA plan that didn't have full funding listed within it. And you're making a resolution in advance of money you don't have, similar to what happened with the reason we're selling property. Just as a disclaimer, Up for Ed is not trying to buy the property. It's this board that's caused that sale, and the organizations that caused that sale, not Up for Ed. We're not buying it from you. Thank you. But the issue is that this decision is going to be made long before the parents get to come along and be engaged in the decision about it again, that the parents will be left with the scraps of the money because you've made a commitment now to priority of a particular thing without engaging your stakeholders. And again, similar to the LEA plan you just approved that was not translated, I don't see any translation for the LCFF stuff coming around. And are you really going to engage those stakeholders and have them see a systemic plan of all possibilities? We heard about diversity. What about OSIL before class size reduction? Maybe parents would like to see a full plan, not haphazard, as prioritized without their discussion. So you're making this resolution tonight, but who'd you talk to about other things that parents might have desired? So we're going to be forced to come to this point where you've made commitments that nobody else knew about. The money's all spent before it gets here again, and the parents are left with the scraps for their kids to discuss. And you'll say you engaged them, but did you really?
Good evening. My name is Amy Redding. And first I want to say that class size reduction is very important to me as a parent of an 8th grader and a 5th grader. But as the chair of the DAC, the District Advisory Council, I must offer you caution. At 2 of the SSC meetings that I attended this week, the administrators found questionable spending. Restricted funds were being used to pay for teachers that were teaching classes that the district, not restricted funds, should be paying for. I'm going to hazard a guess that this is happening district-wide as a result of the budget cuts over at least the past 3 years that have made school sites desperate. With Prop 30 money coming into the district, we need to reevaluate how restricted money has been spent. We need to be sure that we are spending money, included restricted money, properly. We need to take the time to review the landscape and fix the misuse of the dollars before we start making commitments with the money from Prop 30 and the money in the base grant. Thank you.
Lindsay Birmingham, SDA Vice President and kindergarten teacher. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Beiser, Mr. Barrera for trying to address our class size concern that we came to the board last week to talk about. But this resolution, it seems more of an excuse as to why we can't do what we need to do instead of an actual solution on how we're going to do it. The parents, educators, and students came together to pass Prop 30 and to have funding go up, and their class sizes are going up. That is not what we came together to fight for. We came together to fight for an improvements in our school funding so that we can provide the education our students so deserve. Superintendent Martin and the board are jeopardizing money by having class sizes go up. That money is tied to class size reduction, and from last year to this year, our class sizes are going up from 24 to 27 in K through 3. I'm here to ask you to do the right thing and to vote to reduce class sizes to 24 to 1 or below. As the research shows, it's actually better to be even lower than 24 to 1, and protect the state funding. If class size is a real priority, then we need a vote to make it a reality. I know everybody here has said that they support class size. I do as a teacher in the classroom, and I would think the parents would also, because as a teacher, I am able to do more with a smaller number of students in my class. The smaller number of students I have, the more one-on-one support, differentiated instruction, and attention I can give to those students. But if class size is really a priority, we need to be scouring the budget to make that happen, not saying the money's not there. The money's there, it's just been placed as a different priority for our school board and for our district. So this isn't about whether we have the money, it's about what the priorities are. And I urge you tonight to amend this resolution to show that your priority is for class size and that you are going to look at the budget and find that money that does exist within our school budget. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes the public comment, I believe, on this item.
Some questions. A question for the superintendent. Number one, can you, there has been a number of times, both publicly and other comments about that the district is risking $20 million by not reducing class size right now. Can you respond to that issue, please?
Yes, I can, and I might also return to our general counsel as well on that, there's a hold harmless clause in the way that we approach the coming years with LCFF funding, remembering that LCFF is an 8-year implementation, and we all fought hard for Prop 30, and understanding what LCFF is also going to do, how the money comes back, and the priorities that we make. This resolution does talk about moving towards lower and lower class sizes. We're implementing this year something that was decided last year, and we're moving in that direction, but the concept that we will be losing money for it is one that we have legal opinion around being held harmless in this year of implementation. That as long as we make progress towards lower class size, we've shown a history in our district of lower class sizes in the past, and you're making a commitment today that you want to continue to move back towards that. And so, Ms. Donovan, do you want to also talk about what the legal opinion on that is?
Yes, thank you. The LCFF statutes contain an exception. What they state is that districts should make annual progress towards a ratio of 24:1 over an 8-year period, except districts who have a collective bargaining agreement which states different class size ratios that have been previously negotiated. And we do have those in our contracts at this time, so we not only are not obligated to go directly to 24:1 in any event, but we are entitled to rely on the ratios that are currently in our contract.
So the ratios in the contract with SDA, who we have 2 representatives speaking of from tonight, for teachers, counselors, and nurses, I believe, that agreement had a 27:1?
It has a number of different class size ratios depending on the grade level.
But the K3, which is what the subject of the resolution is.
It has a class size ratio for K3 as well.
Right, but doesn't that agreement call for 27:1?
It calls for 25.5:1.
25.5:1, okay. I had some other questions, but did you have a question to ask, sir?
No, go ahead.
Okay. As many of us parents know, and of course board members know, the last few weeks we've had a lot of questions about the potential loss of positions at school sites. And I believe, the action has been taken as of today or earlier this week that I believe there were, and please correct me if I'm wrong, over 80 appeals filed by school sites, which also I believe includes middle and high school, or is that just elementary schools? Just elementary school sites, because children in middle and some high schools are being affected by the loss of positions as well, which potentially affecting classes disappearing, which could reorganize complete schedules at various schools. So there were some 80 appeals requested just from elementary, and then we funded 27 appeals essentially, so because of the positions that were available. Okay, left from the nutrition model. So being a student of history, I think it's very important to know why we're here where we are today. And history is made every day by this board when we make a decision, and then next year, 5 years, there are impacts of it. And part of the history is the fact that last year, when Prop 30 was on the ballot, and we all supported it and all said this is going to help fund our schools, the previous school board, Ms. Foster wasn't on that board, and voted to say that if Prop 30 passed, made an agreement with the Teachers Association, that first priority of those new funds would be for raises that teachers have not received in many, many years, and to restore school days. So, decision of priorities. I think someone asked the Vice President, what are our priorities at the school board? And the priority of the school board at that point, and the union, was raises. And that was the agreement. And then, after Prop 30 passed, all of the new money from Prop 30 not only was spent on raises, but the increase in health benefits and some other increases. So all the new money from Prop 30 is gone, spent based on decisions that my colleagues agreed to. And teachers deserve raises, and do to our other employees. So then come December, as we were facing this year a $90 million shortfall, a decision was made to fill that hole 2 ways. Number one, selling $60 million worth of land, one-time revenues to fill ongoing expenditures. And the other decision of my 4 colleagues here was to adopt the so-called attrition model, meaning if people leave the district, retire, or whatever reason, we won't fill that position. The goal was to find $30 million for about 300 positions. At the time, and many times subsequent, I stated, well, you know what's going to happen? The first couple of weeks of school, people are going to come running down here and say, my class size gotten bigger, and maybe I don't have my nurse, and maybe I don't have my counselor, and this is going to impact us. And guess what happened? That basically what the board did is they're paying for raises by higher class sizes. And that was the trade-off. Now, teachers deserve raises. So when we talk about history and the story, once again, resolutions are nice. But the real action was last year when a decision was made to increase class sizes through the attrition model. And that's the impact we're having now. So I support this resolution. I believe in lower class sizes. So does everyone here. Everyone on this board does. But there isn't any money. We have a $90 million shortfall. $30 million was spent in raises and other increases, health benefits and other costs. And we had to pay for it, paying for it with land sales and for higher class sizes. So it's important to understand the history and why we're here and the choices that were made and the priorities that were made. And once again, those priorities are not right or wrong. They are just different. My view is previously teachers were being hurt by not getting raises. Now, teachers and kids are being hurt. Teachers got the raises, but they have to deal with larger class sizes, and thousands of our kids are being hurt. So I support this resolution, but let's stop blaming the state for everything that happens and take responsibility for the actions that we as board members did overtly and created a problem that is being addressed today.
Other board member comments? Okay. I think that just to make a couple of comments, because I know when I've talked to a lot of people, it's certainly frustrating this year. The obvious question, we passed Proposition 30. We all agreed we're going to bring more money into public schools. Why, after we've weathered this storm, when San Diego fought so hard to keep class sizes low, why now are we raising class size? And I think it's a very legitimate question and a very legitimate frustration. But we are teaching our students through the Common Core and otherwise that we want everybody to be critical thinkers and to carefully analyze all of the facts. And so when we talking about this idea of extra money from Proposition 30, we have to realize that we have kept our school system surviving the past few years by doing every possible measure we could, by using every possible reserve we could to keep our schools functioning. So the previous year we had a shortfall of about $120 million. This year we're getting approximately $30 million extra from Proposition 30. Okay, so that has lowered our shortfall. We don't have a $120 million shortfall this year. We have about a $90 million shortfall this year. And so when the board looked at this last spring, the choice was really clear. One thing we could do, we could see that we had a chart and it shows this is the income and these are expenditures, and there was a point at which they would meet in about 3 years. And so we said we could just disassemble our district right away this year, go through this hard time, and then rebuild it in a couple of years, which was really a pretty insane proposition considering every year in school is very important. So we had to find a more reasonable path. And so what we chose to do, which was, controversial to some people, was to sell some property because we were using this as a bridge during these 3 years when we could get closer to our expenditures and our income being equal, that we would do that significantly through property sales, and the other part we would do was through attrition. So what did this mean? This meant that we knew that for this school year we could only employ about 300 fewer teachers than we had the previous year. But rather than massive layoffs and bumping and seniority and moving everybody around, we decided that we would try to accomplish that reduction of 300 through attrition. So we had to match up who was leaving and what we could do, and this was one of the results, that we had to increase class size in elementary school. And as Superintendent Martin said, this is what we had to do this year. Over the next few years, we have to make progress in terms of lowering class size, and we intend to do that. So this is the situation that we're in, and we were very, as was pointed out, this year has been very tight because we could not, in years past, if we were short teachers at school, we would just hire them. If one school had a few more teachers, we would just leave them there to keep it stable. We had to do this on a more exact formula. So the other issue that was brought up was in terms of where is the conversation with the public about class size? We have had extensive conversations with the public, town halls, community meetings, about what are the priorities. And of course, the priority is everything. The priority is nurses and counselors and arts and low class size and so forth. But the one thing that resoundingly came out from parents in the community was the importance of lower class size. So we really worked hard at keeping the class sizes lower. We can't just snap our fingers and there's money, and so we can't do it this year. But that is our commitment, and that is based on our listening to the community in terms of what is more important. And it's important for us to signal the community that we do believe in that, and we will work towards that, but we're not going to do it in a, I wouldn't say fiscally irresponsible, I'd say a fiscally impossible way. We could lower class size, hire more teachers right now, and not meet payroll in a couple of months, which obviously would be insanity. So I think everyone needs, it's a difficult situation. We're coming through this valley and it's going to gradually go up, but I think we just need to look at this very critically. So that said, please vote on this resolution. Okay, that passes 5-0.
I'd like to move item H6 and H7.
Okay, we're jumping ahead, so let me just say this is the intent to sell Hale Junior High School H6 and 7. Moved and seconded.
I make a comment?
Comment, yes.
One of the sites, specifically Hale Junior High School, has a football field that's been built by our tenant with lights on it, right next to a park. And right in the neighborhood, right there where there is an opportunity for kids to use it. I would like to hold back a piece of that property at the very least. I don't support any sales of property, one-time revenues, once again, for ongoing expenses, because you have to find the same dollars next year. If we're paying for a salary with selling property, we get the property, we sell the land, it's gone. But at the very least, I think we should try to maintain the fact that when this does sell, it's going to be the zone, probably high-density apartments. And then the question is, how can we mitigate the impact on the community? So I would like the board to consider pulling at least back the piece of the land that is a wonderful football, soccer, lacrosse, field hockey field that's lit, paid for by our tenant, that we could keep back and still make a, probably, since every sale we've done so far has been 50% more revenues than the appraisal, we could still meet the budget goals the board needs, but maintain a community resource. So I would ask my colleagues to consider, while we're doing this, to carve out that piece of property to maintain that community benefit as part of the sale.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor, I believe, and seconded to sell the property. That's the current motion. Mr. Barnett has an idea if the motion doesn't pass. Okay, please vote on this item. This is a continuation of the attrition plan. Okay, that passes 4-1. We'll now go to, we're on item H1 right now. This is the Finance Monthly Update. However, everybody has received this item. There is nothing significant to report in terms of any unexpected changes at this point. I just want to take this opportunity to thank our interim CFO, Jenny Salkeld, for the work they've been doing. Since we're not discussing this a lot here, I think it's important to realize they worked hard last summer on coming up with a 3-year budget plan, and they will be in the coming months as we start to develop a plan for the coming year. So everybody has that data, and that was just an information point this time. We have now items H3 and H4 are public hearings. Items H3 is a public hearing regarding an easement around the new Salk Elementary School. Ms. Ward, are there any, the public hearing is opened. Are there any public speakers on this item? There are no public speakers on this item, so is there a motion to approve?
Moved.
well, H3 right now, H3.
Second.
Okay. Okay, it's moved and seconded. Please vote. That was only allowed 1 minute on the agenda time schedule here, so we're right on target for that one. H4, public hearing for another one, same site. Okay, moved and seconded. Please vote. We have on item H5 is an information item. It's just a brief item for the staff to update us on the schedule for community meetings about local control funding formula.
I'm going to call Mr. Aguirre up here to have the conversation. This is coming forward from through dialogue actually up here over the last several board meetings around community input and what the community input process will be for the local control funding formula. We want to make sure you as board members understand, but also the community at large, what our process is going to be for input moving forward. Mr. Aguirre?
All right. So before I start, I want to make sure I say that I won't go through the entire PowerPoint itself. I just wanted to state that up front. I heard the word brief. So,
I just threw that in there. That wasn't in my script.
Thank you. So this is a follow-up item to a board resolution that was adopted on September 3rd. Where the request was for staff to develop a schedule for the implementation of LCFF. So based on that guidance and direction from the board, we've been working again in multidisciplinary teams with our finance, with our parent engagement, with our translations, and with our communications office, government relations. It's really been kind of multimodal approach to this because it's going to be a pretty comprehensive process. But at this point, I wanted to just briefly point out that in the board docs item, you'll see a number of items, and basically it's this PowerPoint, which is really intended to be a what we're calling a master PowerPoint, because the model we're really going to implement is a train-the-trainer model, where we'll be working with parent university and different community organizations to partner. But before we ask anybody to go out there and present, we wanted to make sure that we had a coherent approach. So that's why we developed this PowerPoint. It's really a comprehensive PowerPoint, so we'll be tailoring it depending on the requests we receive from the communities. But again, our effort here in developing this information was so that we were all coming from the same page, if you will. So the second piece that's in board docs is a drafts community schedule. And at that point, I want to emphasize the word draft. There's a lot of information there about cluster meetings, but that's not the only place we're going to be going. So we're going to be meeting with the advisory groups, the various advisory groups to the district, so DLAC, DAC, CAC. We'll be open to other community groups and other community meetings. As requests come in, we'll definitely be as available as possible. That's our goal. That's what we're committed to, because that's what we heard from the board, is make sure that there's robust community engagement in this process. And again, this process is to receive as much community feedback in order to be able to have the community voice once we get some guidance from the state for the development of the plan, the local control accountability plan. We also developed some forms to support, again, a uniform approach, a coherent approach across the system. So we have a stakeholder input sheet so that no matter where we're at this district, we have one way to collect the feedback, and then we can have, again, a coherent approach towards our response and review the different comments that we receive. So there are some slides that I did want to go through because I think they're important in terms of process. So I'll see if I can get to those, again, without necessarily going through the entire PowerPoint presentation. I will say that after this presentation, it's actually posted already online. We've created a new website for the district. It's sandy.net/LCFF. We also have this PowerPoint. It's been translated in Spanish, and we're working on other languages as well. So we're definitely being responsive to that request, and we heard that. And we want to be, again, making sure that's available as possible. So let me see if I can get that. So this is, again, if you think about it in terms of this is going to be the community presentation. So this one, just wanted to point out before LCFF and with LCFF, so it points out the different revenue limit model before. Now we're using the LCFF will be a base funding, supplemental, and concentration fund. We've heard a lot of conversation around this. This slide identifies what has actually been rolled into LCFF in terms of categorical funding programs. I won't get into them. Again, it's on our website, but just so that people know that it's available. Here's some technical information we'll go through. I think this is something that there's an interest in terms of the funding piece. I want to stress at this point what we have are estimates, and what's found here on our slide is based off the county calculator. They've developed a specific calculator, and based on that information, that's the information that's here. It's an estimate, and I can't overemphasize that. In terms of the subgroups that we will be needing to address, this slide addresses the subgroups and the fact that our plans will have to identify the actions in our academic program and how we're going to align the funding towards meeting the needs of these students.
Just one question on that. Sure. On the information we saw, they listed 3 groups, which was groups living in poverty, English language learners, and foster children. Were the 3 that were called out, and yet that's not what we typically do in terms of all the different subgroups we have in the district. So are they adding those in now?
So that's a very good point. There will be overlay. That piece about the students you've identified has to do with the in order to receive supplemental and concentration funding, it will be based on the demographics of the district, and that's the piece about the funding revenue. In terms of the plan, that's really more of an expenditure plan in terms of how you're going to be using those revenues to address these different subgroups.
Okay.
This image, I think, really neatly depicts what the new process moving forward in terms of LCFF. So it kind of establishes what will need to happen throughout the budget cycle through the LCFF process. So in winter, we get the work of developing our budgets. In the spring, that's where we really start getting to finalizing the school plans. Summer is the implementation, and fall. So it really builds that iterative loop into the work that we're going to be doing. And really, the focus here is that LCFF will allow us to align in a meaningful way the budgets to the academic programs, which is that's one of the new items that really has focused the budget piece. Required data for students that we will need to include in our plans. Again, at this point, it's not clear. The state will eventually adopt a local control and accountability plan, but these are the 8 areas that must be addressed. And the state, and in terms of the legislation, has already identified those requirements that they will be looking for in the ultimate plans. The local control piece really comes into prioritization and how each district across the state can set its priorities according to its student needs. And here, this model or figure, if you look at where we're really at the stage of developing we're at the very first stage, developing the schedule. We're not even at the developing a plan yet, but we're consulting with our school employees, parents, students, and overall stakeholders. Once we get through that time period, we'll get into the actually development of a plan once the state adopts a model. Once the state adopts these sample plans, then at that point we can develop our plan further in a more comprehensive way. We'll again go out to another public comment period that's a much more formal process where it'll be open for a particular time period, 30, 45 days for public input. At that point when we receive feedback, staff will prepare responses to the feedback we receive, and it'll come back for board consideration, at which point it will be a hearing. So again, there's multiple points for public input, and that's really what I wanted to emphasize throughout this. And I think the rest is going to be on our website, and we've also identified some resources for the public. More than anything, we wanted to make sure that we share that we are committed to working with the public to ensure that there's feedback in this process. And we're looking forward to engaging in a very meaningful way with all the advisory groups that we have at the district, the clusters, and if there's others that are interested to reach out to us, and we're definitely available.
And let me just reiterate where this came from. This presentation was not meant to educate the board or the public on LCFF. Remember that on September 3rd, the board member, you all adopted a resolution requesting that we develop a timeline and schedule so that we could communicate to people. Everybody had lots and lots of questions, and they wanted to know what was happening, when was happening, where's the money, how are we doing it, and so you directed us to be really clear about what our process is. This is not the presentation. We're out in the community, and I want to direct you to the very extensive plan, date by date, where we're going, how we're out in the community. You can see the dates that we're out at the cluster meetings. You can see the dates when there's parent advisory meetings. There's some key dates. In November, for example, there'll be a Board of Education update meeting. We'll be updating you as a board as we go, but we wanted you to know when we're out in the community, what are we talking about, how are we talking about it. There's a single presentation, and so that there's a uniform message. And Mr. Aguirre was going through slides quickly so you had a taste of what the community's hearing, and we're following up from what you asked is, how are you getting out there, and what are you saying, and how is the public going to be educated about this? And although Mr. Aguirre, as a district relations person, is talking about the multiple stakeholder input and how we are making sure that we're listening along the way. We're also listening, we can't forget that stakeholder input also includes our principals, our teachers, that employees are also having input, but we're out at the community and making it very public what the opportunities are for input, and cluster meetings aren't the only places, and being very transparent. And it's not our intention to say, just go check the website if you want to find it out. It's what are all of the different places and all of the different forums where we can talk about the process. And that came from your request as responsible trustees to say on September 3rd, directing us to do that. And that's what Mr. Aguirre has been leading that effort around the community.
Thank you. Mr. Brewer.
Yeah, thank you, Superintendent Martin, again, Mr. Aguirre. I think one of the keys to this process, and it's, this is so challenging because it's a new funding system on one hand with LCFF, and then it's the development of the accountability plan. But it seems that what we need to be doing, and I know that that's the intention here, is to align the planning and the input around the LCAP, the Local Control Accountability Plan, with the LCAP, right, which is a high school in Lakeside, with that's right. With the funding, with the budget process. So as we go through our budget process for 2013-14, which is what we're in right now, 2014-15, the next year, clearly we have to start to demonstrate some of the commitment to the LCAP that we're developing, primarily a commitment to equity. The whole focus of the local control funding formula is about getting more resources to the kids in higher needs. That's why we as a district are receiving proportionately more money because we have a high percentage of kids on free and reduced lunch, a high percentage of English learners. So as we put together our 14-15 budget, understanding, of course, that the full implementation of LCFF will roll out over 7 years, as we've clarified a couple of times. But I think we also need to start showing an understanding of a commitment to equity within our district as we put together our 14-15 budget. So making sure that the planning process around our accountability plan is integrated with the planning process around our budget, I think is going to be critical.
Yeah, I just want to agree with that. I mean, I think what we're really looking for is we're trying to have quality schools in every neighborhood. We're trying to close the achievement gap, and we're going to use, that's what we've already decided, and we're going to use these funds to do that, which is different than just, okay, let's just divvy up the money between a lot of schools, and you're entitled to this, and it doesn't really matter what the results are. And so the other part that we had discussed was in terms of our own advocacy with the Department of Education, and I was going to say legislators, but at this point more the Department of Education, in terms of what is a reasonable, what are reasonable ways to measure what we're doing. I mean, we're kind of reading tea leaves and what are they going to require of us and so forth, but if we should be coming up with plans about this is what we think are reasonable ways to measure, and these are the results that we want to be able to show. so that we don't end up in a No Child Left Behind type of system where what's being measured isn't exactly what we were setting out to do. And since they're in the process of figuring that out, it seems like we, as one of the largest districts, in the state, dedicated to equity, should be able to, have some strong input on that. So I don't know where that is in terms of interaction with the Department of Education, because I know when we proposed that, there was the issue of, well, let's talk to the stakeholders, and if there was a time frame of don't take too long to get to advocate.
Right, and that partially gets to the fact that we do have the flexibility in terms of the 8 different areas that have to be addressed in any plan. So the state has already told us these are the 8 areas you have to address.
And they haven't said how we address them.
That's exactly where the local control piece comes in.
We just have to present information and argument about how we are addressing that.
Right. In essence, we get to set the local priority, and that's one of the ways that this really allows for greater local input and just process in terms of how you align budgets to academic program. And this really is unique in a way that it's not simply tied to assessments or CSTs or any testing as we've known, but really it's more comprehensive than that, and you can identify areas of, for example, school or campus climate. You can look at areas of do students have access to coursework, meaningful coursework. So that's the piece where we do have that ability to influence how we develop the plan.
So when the discussions in the community, it will have to do with those issues in terms of what are the priorities and how are we going to measure them and what do we consider important. And I'm saying that as opposed to just a sort of a discussion about how much money should each school get. You know what I mean? If it just or some sort of fiscal argument. I mean, what do you see in terms of what the discussion would be about? I'm not saying that wouldn't be included, but
This is an opportunity to really have a deeper conversation with, again, our advisory groups, with different clusters. So, for example, there can be programs that are offered across the cluster, but maybe not necessarily at every single school within the cluster, but it can be a strategic choice. That's something that we can have a conversation with the community and stakeholders. There can be conversations about different programs that we offer. And, one of the ones that came to mind recently is Biliteracy program has been talked about, and how can we offer those. So these are the types of, and these are just examples of different ways that we can align the budget piece to the academic program. And the crosswalk was going to be definitely vital in terms of developing our local priorities here in San Diego.
So then in terms of the equity issue with the supplemental grants and the concentration grants and the fact that we're gradually moving into that, my understanding from what Ms. Barrera was saying too is that that's what we're moving towards. We need to show some progress on that. But I haven't done the calculations, but I'm just assuming that if we took the base grant and gave every school the base grant, that schools would not even be able to employ all of their teachers. And then the supplemental and concentration only certain places. So that's going to be a challenge to keep that commitment and also keep all of our schools open.
It speaks to the fact that this is a rollout over 8 years. It's not going to be, and a couple of us have already mentioned it here tonight, but that's exactly what that speaks to. It's not going to be an immediate infusion of cash necessarily, but it'll be, we can be strategic in how we grow as a district. What are some of the areas that we focus? So, for example, supports for ELL students, support for foster youth. There's different areas that we can be strategic, and maybe it's not something that we implement right away, but we can have a different time horizon in terms of 2 or 3 years. Right. And again, that's the piece where we can start building. It's really an opportunity to rebuild.
Right.
So the time horizon is going to be key.
That's great.
And I just wanted to ask, being that Shirley Weber, our Assemblywoman in 79th, has drafted a lot of the language and is really looking at the accountability piece at the school site. How are we, working closely with her office as we get feedback from our stakeholders and also co-implement this and look at the the budget piece, because it's a great opportunity because she's right here. And so what are we doing in that regard to collaboratively work with the 79th?
The opportunity of having Dr. Weber right here in San Diego, and she was very involved in making sure that this passed, and student letters supporting LCFF were hanging on her office wall up in Sacramento when we visited before it got passed, that the transformational nature of this funding formula isn't going to be realized unless we can show the results. And so we took key staff members to meet with her and say, what would an ideal implementation look like? If we implement in San Diego Unified in a way that the law intended, where you have the basis, supplemental, and the concentration, we actually concentrate the dollars where the concentrated need is, as was intended by this law. We, as a superintendent, I made the statement with the staff when we visited Dr. Weber's office that I'm committed to making recommendations to you as a board around implementing with complete fidelity to the spirit and the actual nature of the law. And that means to not go wobbly on it. And when we have to make decisions, it's around the accountability piece. And Dr. Evans, you're talking about, well, what is the accountability? What are they going to hold us accountable for? What measures do we have that will hold ourselves accountable for? And the document, or the one page that he showed, the different things that you can look at, school climate. If you put money here, what happens? And did that work? And how do we know if it worked? Because if this funding formula is to prove its viability, we have to prove that with data it did make a difference. And so we need to say, where did we direct the dollars, and then what did we expect? What is the return on that investment, and how will we measure it? And if it's not going to be by CST scores, because we don't have those anymore, and API is shifting and changing, and what are the new Common Core assessments that we're going to use? And is it just benchmark assessments or our revised benchmark assessments, or are there other things that we know are important that when you direct dollars, you expect a return on that investment? And the language that I use is student outcomes. And the student outcomes are more than just single soul test scores as the only outcome. That when we direct the dollars to these places in concentrated ways, what are the kinds of results we'll expect to see? And the state's having that conversation right now, and we're weighing in on that conversation, talking about the viable, important indicators that we think represent a concentration of funding should have results in certain areas. Did we increase attendance? If that was the strategy. Did we increase parent involvement? If that was the strategy. Did we increase school climate? If that was it. When we concentrated a dollar somewhere because that's what the school community said they wanted to work on, then the dollars went to a specific need, and there should be outcomes that we can measure, and we'll determine what those are together.
John? Yes. Oh, go ahead.
No, I just was just going to say that when we look at all of those indicators, those 8, the end result should be student achievement. You know, in closing the gap with those with the concentrations that in student populations that we've identified, and all students. So student outcomes is a very accurate word. We're looking at student outcomes, and combined we should see the student achievement, which results in students graduating and students being successful beyond San Diego Unified. So
Mr. Barnett first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to actually follow up on Ms. Foster's point about the connection with Assemblymember Weber. I think part of the relationship, that the district has with Dr. Weber needs to work the other way as well, because we need to look to Dr. Weber to help hold Sacramento accountable. So the fact that we are on a 7/8 year schedule to implement LCFF is something that continues to need to be challenged by our district, by an education leader, by Dr. Weber. The estimate, for Prop 30 is that it would bring in, at least in this year, an additional $6 billion to education, or bringing in $6 billion to the state budget. And Prop 30 was certainly, the campaign was about restoring funding to schools. We know that for the 13-14 year, there was about a $2 billion increase to education from the state budget. So where's the other $4 billion going? Where's it going? And that, again, is about priorities. And so I think our work with Dr. Weber, with Assembly Majority Leader Tony Atkins, with other leaders, from the San Diego delegation in the state budget is, again, back to this issue of we need to accelerate the restoration of funding back to K-12 education, which is what the voters voted for, which is what the voters supported. And the sooner that we do that, the sooner that we can start to, in a serious way, invest in, in equitable, in strategies that are designed to achieve equitable outcomes for our kids.
Okay, Mr. Burnett.
Like a lot of issues budgetary here, we either kind of have a 10,000-foot level or we sit and we get raw data. And if you look, what I can't grasp here yet is I think it would be helpful to, number one, have some model suggested or possible allocations of these funds as they, if in fact we think we're going to get $30 million towards LCFF in 13-14, according to slide 9 here. What of that $30 million, how do we anticipate it has been used or already budgeted or can be used? Is there any left, if you will, at this point for 13-14? And then...
And as they're adopting the regulations in January, right? As we made our plans, that's the problem.
Well, I understand that, but in theory, then you have the allocation formulas here. They're talked about on page 7, and then we have the 8 areas, and I'm assuming, maybe I'm assuming wrong, that they're not going to be too constrictive, if you will, constricted on page 19, the state, the 8 priorities, that we will be allowed to, that's where we'll have our flexibility. So the question is, and then of course, so if you have $30 million this year, is there any money left for this? How much is there left? How much could go into different segments? As John said before, well, you could give a certain dollar to each school site and it may not mean anything, versus maybe this first year you just use district-wide program. I don't know. I'm not suggesting. I'm just saying we need to know how to best leverage the...
Yeah, I agree with what Mr. Barnett's saying. However, I just think it's important that we don't characterize that the LCFF money is the $30 million or the Prop 30 money. It's the LCFF is the way that the state now budgets education dollars. It's the whatever it was, $700 million or whatever that dollar amount is that we get from the state. So it's thinking about all of the dollars that come in as general fund unrestricted, as ADA, that comes into the district from the state is incorporated within this LCFF.
You're right, and thank you for clarifying that. And then obviously most of that money is already committed. Because we are... Yeah, even next year, we are a business that has people doing things. We don't make widgets, and most of our costs are in people. So that's going to be the same case next year, and the year after, paying people salaries and benefits and so forth. So that's put aside, in a sense. So the question is, what do we have left with the new dollars, additional growth, and how would it be targeted in assuming these 8 areas we'll have some flexibility on, and therefore how we'll start thinking about how it'll be targeted. If in the first year there's smaller amount, maybe you want, once again, a district-wide initiative that serves these goals versus more dollars at a school site. I don't know. Or maybe you're saying give each school site an extra whatever. So I think we need to start looking at those models, because what's going to happen is suddenly at the end of the day you're going to come forward and say, oh, this is where we think it should be, and then everyone who has a thought of where it should go is suddenly going to react to it, and we need to have, I think, adequate time to look at alternatives, so we're not simply having the inertia of deciding it as opposed to the policy decisions. Does that make sense? The other thing, just to tie into this, I think I need to understand, and I know there's differences of Title I and these dollars, and there's some areas where there's similar targets of funding, and there's some where they're completely different, as far as, if you will, subgroups. So I think seeing how these might be added to current Title I dollars that are trying to achieve similar goals, or on the other hand, dollars that are different, and also, what flexibility does that have to give Title I dollars for other appropriate Title I uses, depending on the school size? Because that Title I discussion is going to start in, I think December. It seems like we first get a presentation or something. So I think because of the communities we're serving, I think we need to understand the relationship of these funds. Does that make sense?
And I think I want to comment on something that you've commented on a lot before, Scott, about the Title I funds and what sort of results. Schools get this much money and they do these programs that look like good programs, but then we say that's a small part of the school budget, so can we hold the school's total academic output, or whatever you want to call it, the outcomes for the students, can we base that on this small percentage that was the Title I funds? I think what's great about this is, as Richard was saying, this is all of the money, and so we're going to target, make big budget decisions and target the money at each school, and we're going to look at the total overall results rather than just one little segment like we do with Title I. And on that regard, I think Title I is it has its own rules and so forth, but it's going to be part of the formula of how does X school succeed, as opposed to being just some separate sort of thing.
And I know we've discussed, obviously we have numbers for different groups, if you will, but for instance, I have no idea how many foster kids there are in Sandy Unified. Is it 100? Is it 1,000? I mean, just those types of, since that's one of the ones mentioned here, and there's a whole, so it'd be interesting to start drilling down a little bit into how our school community is affected specifically.
And we've started modeling what that is. We've worked with finance to look at possible models because there's so many uncertainties around how it's actually going to be finally decided. We can make a prediction. We can do some of the modeling and saying, well, how much would it be? And if we implement with the fidelity of the law around concentrating the dollars that come in a concentrated need, we really want to be responsible about that. That if this funding formula is meant to show that when you concentrate the dollars, you get a result. So in a world where in education there are no silver bullets, that just because you put this much money here and you do this exact thing, then you magically get this exact result. It's about stating what is it that we're intending to do. I experienced it as a principal at Central when you, as some of you were on the board then, when we targeted some needs for a specific project, we tracked that data over a 4-year period and we saw the results. But we were committed to a specific strategy, and we implemented that strategy with fidelity, and we had data, all the pre and post data all the way through. So when we make some decisions, we want to make decisions in a way that we know where you put the money, produce results, and lots of people have lots of ideas about silver bullets, about if you just bought this one thing, then you would ultimately get the results that you need. That's the bigger conversation around. We want to show what the solutions are that we know will work.
Now, we didn't want a silver bullet. We have a new sheriff in town.
So sheriff and accountability, but it's about making smart decisions with this concentration, because it's so important that we don't squander the opportunity, that when you get a concentrated effort, we want to be able to show something for that. So we can start the modeling process and say, well, what would that mean? If our concentration only means the school is going to get $200, I'm giving a crazy example because I don't want to start predicting what a school is going to get. If you get $200, what are you going to do with it? If you get 20, if you get 200,000, if you get $2 million. Doesn't matter what you get, whether it's $2 or $2 million or $200 million. What did you decide to spend that on? How does that match your priority? Is there research backing up what you decided to do? And did you get a result with it?
Okay, very good. We have one public speaker on this item, Lisa Berlanger. Still awake?
I Thank you, President Evans, Superintendent Martin, and board members. Lisa Berlega, United Parents for Education. Well, it's good that I come to the meetings because I pulled up the stuff on Friday that you guys posted. It's changed a lot since then, which is great. So thank you, Mr. Aguirre. I know you've been working on this hard. So a lot of my comments were based on that. So when we originally looked at the schedule on including community, it was very heavily weighted on just clusters, and we didn't see a lot of other parent groups. But through listening to the meeting, it sounds as you are using the advisory committees. We did want to make sure groups like DAC and DLAC, who have been working with those populations and that we're supposed to concentrate funds on, are included as well. So it sounds like that work's already been done. It's great to see that this isn't a final thing. This is an idea, and it's continued to be worked on. We also met with Dr. Weber, and something that she said that might help in focusing the questions and really engaging parents in a meaningful way is asking them, we have this huge achievement gap, especially the parents who are at the schools where there is an achievement gap. Going to those parents and saying, so what do your kids need that they're not getting that would help them be successful in school? And I thought that, I can't take credit, she said it, it's kind of a very simple idea, but kind of revolutionary. Let's go ask the parents, what do your kids need to be successful? And then let's concentrate funds on that, and maybe we can close that achievement gap that's been there for decades. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, let me double check here to make sure. We have no public testimony and non-agenda items. The consent agenda. I knew I was skipping something. Okay. What items did we have pulled from the consent agenda?
Item 21.
Item 21. That's the only one. I think others were withdrawn.
And I believe 25 also.
I'll move the consent calendar.
So 21 and 25 are pulled, and he's moving.
And staff withdrew 16 prior from the agenda.
Okay. So Mr. Beiser is moving the remaining items on the consent agenda. Okay, please vote. Okay, that's 5-0. And so item 21, Mr. Beiser.
I'll move item 21.
Second. Is there a second? Okay. Okay. No comments. Please vote. And item 25. Okay. Let's vote on item 25. Is there a motion to accept item 25?
I'll move it.
Move it. Is there a second?
Second.
Just a second?
Just a second.
Yes. I heard the word second. Okay. Item 25. And we're getting, it's hard. Okay, and that passes 4-1. That concludes the consent agenda, and therefore the meeting is adjourned.
Wow, you said the whole meeting.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
Yeah, we know. We thought it was interesting.
Work and